9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The Bills, they're working to hire Ron Curry as the quarterback coach / passing game coordinator. They have to replenish this roster.
Mike Danger.
I'm Danger.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
I'm the sarcastic one. Gene is the credible, mostly serious guy who's the hardcore sports man. I'm just joking around. It's not that serious to me.
Gene Battaglia.
Live
Club Chino.
Yeah. He's got the strobe light going.
On EPXY.
DJ Eugene Lover.
People would tune in from our show just to hear me spinning the tunes.
A 2-1 loss to the Dallas Stars.
Ottinger won that game for him. 48 shots the Sabres threw at Ottinger. He was unbelievable.
More consistently inconsistent.
Amerks Hockey.
Guess how many games they have? 9 games.
9 games.
9 times.
Yeah.
In 16 days.
She's just 16 years old.
My focus is up there.
Crunch.
Tiger Woods. Tiger is back.
All-star guard Jalen Brunson twisted his right ankle last night, did not finish. Popcorn is overrated.
All right. You ever notice you do that? All right.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
All right, let's get started. All right.
Can we go back to you're not seriously entertaining my proposal to be a great crossover event? I'm not talking about a whole show. Just a couple of segments.
Yeah, go have fun,
DJ
Gino.
Eugene Lover
Go.
on 98PXY here.
Go ahead. Yeah, have fun. You could talk up all the Ariana Grande records you want to, pal. It's all yours. Have fun with that.
You won't let me in there. I wouldn't even know how to log in.
Yeah, have a good time with that. If that's what floats your boat, man, you do you. Have fun. I mean, I've been there, done that. I
You did that for decades.
Yeah,
didn't you?
I don't really feel like I need to go back to that. You know, I spent my time talking to the kiddos on PXY, and then, grow up a little bit, and here I am talking up Benny Mardones and Toto Records on the Buzz, and that leads me to the path that we are here. I'm starting to think that the only reason why I'm here is because my wife and I were working on the same radio station for all those years, and they probably thought, you know what? If both of them walked out the door at the same time, that might not be the best for that radio station.
Oh, I thought, you know what? If they work on the same radio station and they're working together, they're spending so much time, they may end up killing one another.
I don't think anybody cares if we kill each other. I think they care more about whether or not the bottom line is affected if both of us walk out the door at the same time. They probably don't care if we kill each other.
Well, funny, I thought, that'd be a great morning show, have you and your wife. And then I saw you do a podcast. It would not work.
It's her dream. She's always like, oh, you and I would make it. I'm like, not happening. Not happening. I see how you talk to Spazzano. I'm not. No way. We're not doing that. No chance. No chance. You're a saint for working with Scott all those years, and I want no part of co-hosting a show with my wife. I'll just put that out there. She knows it. I'm not telling any tales out of school. And you're right. You got to witness it kind of firsthand when we all did a podcast together. Was like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, a long time ago, and it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Yeah,
I don't think in fact, I don't even think it made it up.
The whole thing made the cutting room floor?
I think so, yeah.
I'm not even sure. We welcome you into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us and listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950. We also have the stream up for you to watch the Sports Bar at the Fan Rochester on YouTube, our channel there, and also streaming on Twitch at the Fan Rochester. We sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app and on your smart speaker when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. We have another afternoon of fantastic sports talk in the Flower City lined up for you as we go to Las Vegas later this afternoon and talk to one of our favorites.
Yeah, we'll be talking a couple times. We're going to go to Vegas here. First of all, 425, and this is what you call fortuitous timing, Danger, because RJ Ochoa, he does blogging the boys, does some radio in San Antonio as well. He's out in Vegas. I'm like, you know what? Let's just kind of do a scene setter. He's a friend of the show, and the Cowboys are one of those teams we're always interested in checking on, but talking about the Super Bowl, checking with RJ, and then lo and behold, we have this story about the Cowboys today. Yeah. RJ Ochoa coming up in the 4 o'clock hour.
Yeah, we'll talk to RJ, get his pulse on Vegas, and then we'll get some winners for Sunday's action and maybe some NBA action as well. PJ Glasser, the host of BetQL's Send It In, joins us from Vegas. That's coming up here in about 20 minutes or so.
From the Bellagio?
Is he
the
on
Flamingo?
Yeah, where is he? Where is PJ? We'll throw that by him. And maybe tonight in the NBA, he likes Bam Adebayo to go over his points. We'll check in with PJ and get some winners as we look ahead to Sunday's action. You're welcome to join us as well. The Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line is open for you at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Gino, good that we have RG on, as you mentioned. Who's going to be the next defensive coordinator? It's hard to say with a straight face when you see who they're interviewing. And if you're a Cowboy fan, you've got to be like, I can hear Cowboy fan rolling their eyes at the list of candidates. But when you hear Rex Ryan interviewed, and it's a Josina Anderson report, take that for what it's worth. But when you hear Rex Ryan interviewed with the Cowboys, oh boy.
Well, I think we're at the part of, is this real? Is this just Rex? I'll take the interview. I will get my name out there. That's what Rex likes to do. He likes to put himself out there. They could do worse. In fact, he was a candidate in Denver last year, but we didn't really consider that like a destination. But Dallas, this seems kind of very Rexian for him to take a move like this.
All right, so some of the other names that we've heard for this position, Ron Rivera.
No.
Who cut his teeth as a pretty good defensive coordinator in the NFL before he became the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. God, he was he was there with Bob Babich when they went to the Super Bowl, when the Bears went to the Super Bowl. He parlayed that into a stint as DC, and
not to be confused with Bobby Babich. You're talking about the old man. Yeah.
And he went to be DC in San Diego at the time with the Chargers before ending up in Carolina. The other name that the other known name would be former Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer.
Again, that's not going to excite any.
Say what you will about Mike Zimmer as a head coach. I think he was a pretty crappy head coach. Didn't really get a sense that he knew how to manage some of the star. Mike Zimmer is part of the reason why Steph Diggs is a Buffalo Bill. So you can't be too mad at Mike Zimmer, I guess. But he was a pretty good defensive coordinator before he was a head coach with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, and he comes from he was on a staff that won a Super Bowl. He was on Dallas from 94 to 06, starting out in the defensive backfield and then working his way to coordinator for 6 years.
The guy that I think will get the job is the guy that nobody knows, and that's the guy that's internal and their current defensive line coach. That's Aiden Dirty. I think if you're gonna make a move, that's your guy. I mean, he's got familiarity with who's there, and now it's just a matter of, can you be responsible enough to handle all of what Dan Quinn did when he was there as your defensive coordinator? But at least you have somebody internally who knows what's going on. I'm curious to get RJ's take on who he thinks might end up with that defensive coordinator position for Mike McCarthy. And if I'm not mistaken, this will be his third defensive coordinator in 5 years with the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, from a talent standpoint, like, anybody that comes in is going to look pretty good, right? What do we think of Dan Quinn as a head coach? I don't know. As a coordinator, well, look, he did fine in Dallas, right? But his defenses in Atlanta, that wasn't the reason when they got to the Super Bowl, let's be honest.
One of the guys, we should mention this as well, as it was brought up in the open and One Bills Live. We're talking about it today. There's a candidate in tow for Bills quarterback coach, right?
Ron Curry. So Ron Curry was with the Saints, and he got passed over for the offensive coordinator position, and always a connection, right? But this is not a McDermott connection. This is a Joe Brady connection. Joe Brady, before he got to LSU, spent time on the Saints staff, got to know Curry. Curry also played for North Carolina basketball. Interesting kind of career change there. So that's fascinating. That the Bills would go outside the organization for an important position, meaning getting somebody who's going to have direct access to Josh Allen. When we talked yesterday to Matt Perino, I think he kind of sensed that something was up, because we're like, okay, they're going to promote from within. He's like, not so sure.
Yeah.
Put the brakes on that. So Curry wasn't on anybody's radar. But when in doubt, always look to, all right, who did Joe Brady work with in the past? And here's somebody that was interviewing for the Saints offensive coordinator position, didn't get it. He's, from what we're hearing, heading to Buffalo now.
So just his time there with the Saints. I mean, you mentioned he was with the Niners from 2014 to 15 as an offensive assistant. After the coaching overhaul in 2015, Curry was let go, but hired February of 2016 by the Saints to be an offensive assistant with Sean Payton still there. Promoted to wide receivers coach in 2018, and then in 2021 promoted to quarterbacks coach, replacing Joe Lombardi. And Lombardi, you'll remember, became the offensive coordinator with the Chargers that one season, and then promoted to passing game coordinator in February of 2022 with the New Orleans Saints. You mentioned him not being retained after applying to be the offensive coordinator there. And, well, he looks to be on his way. Nothing official yet from the Bills. I don't want to say that there's anything official yet from the Buffalo Bills, but if you believe everything you read on the internet, his Wikipedia page already has him as the Buffalo Bills quarterbacks coach for what that's worth. So we'll get to know Ronald Curry a little bit more here through the course of the NFL season, the offseason here, after his time as an assistant for the Niners and for the Saints. And, college football and a college basketball player. Quarterback at North Carolina, drafted by the Raiders in the 2002 NFL draft in the 7th round, 8 seasons in the NFL for the Raiders, Lions, and Rams. That is Ronald Curry. We'll see if the Bills make an official announcement here.
So that's probably it, right? I mean, Matthew Smiley's staying around. Like last year, we had the late February Leslie Frazier dismissal. I mean, he decided to kind of move on, and take a year off. Sure. We're done, right? I would think this is.
I would say yes, but I'm not going to say yes because of last year, right? Like there's precedent where you could say, well, they'll make a move, but I imagine that if you don't have your coaching staff ready to go, at this point, you better have something like you knew if you moved on from Frazier, Sean McDermott's going to shoulder that load, and he did. And he did a pretty good job. Pretty good. Not great in some instances, but, if you're going to praise a guy like Dan Campbell for being who he is and being aggressive and doing things in the moment where you're like, well, that's just Dan Campbell being Dan Campbell, and that's what got him to that point, and that's you live by that, you die by that. You got to feel the same way about Sean McDermott. I might not like a cover 0 with the game on the line against the Denver Broncos, but that's what he called. Didn't work out. You lost that game. But those same play calls, when they do work, we're like, aggressive. Like that call. Good call by the coach. Nice job. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. And I thought he was decent as a play caller for the Bills this year. And your eye test would tell you that he was actually an improvement over what the Bills' defense looked like with Leslie Frazier.
Well, and it's also getting your position coaches and getting them to get the most out of it, the talent. And I think that if you did a positional breakdown, if you told me at the beginning of the year, oh my gosh, Matt Milano's going to be down, I'd be like, oh my gosh, the teams are going to run all over the place in the Bills, and they didn't. They didn't for a couple reasons. One, just the talent. Dotson came along in the second half, too. Those final 8 games, Terrell Dotson, he was just fine. Bernard, he was great, too. The safeties kind of aged out a little bit, but I'll say the secondary, actually. So, the corner stepping up in place of Tre'Davious White. I think, Danger, that the talent for the Buffalo Bills kind of stepped up this year, and that helped out McDermott a lot. And, he deserves some of the credit for that, certainly.
Dodson's one of the free agents that comes back, right?
See Leslie Frazier.
Oh.
I mean, like that's a sneaky one where you could put like some sort of upfront money that's tough to match.
We're just going down a rabbit hole here. We started talking about quarterbacks coach, which led us talking about how they moved on from a defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
but
welcome to the sports bar.
This is interesting though. Think about some of the free agents that exist, and then ask yourself who's back and who's not, because you know how strapped they are with the cap, and we know that a lot of that changes here once we learn what the cap figure will be and who you're restructuring. But when you talk about guys that might come back at an affordable rate for the Buffalo Bills, because let's face it, this is where they're familiar. This is where they have made hay. Dotson feels like one of those guys that you could get back on a sweetheart deal And McDermott's got the comfort of knowing, hey, at least he knows the defense. He might not be the most talented guy out there, but he knows the system.
Well, and if he walks, Danger, and that's the other thing too. Doesn't he want to be a starter in this league? Guess what? He's not a starter. It's Matt Milano's position. So that's why I think that Dotson would not be back. Some team is willing to offer a starting position.
Yeah, I don't know that he's a starter, though. I don't know that he's a starter for any other team. If you're not a starter for any other team and you're resigned to the fact that you're probably just going to be a special teams ace, would you take Dotson over Matakevich as your special teams? I would. Is your special teams captain?
Well, does Dotson really play special teams?
Yeah, he's played special teams.
Yeah, I guess, but
yeah, I don't know.
Matakevich, no. That's the one thing. If I could change, talking about rabbit holes, like the special teams ace. Preface: we got to interact.
Special teams captain.
Yeah, I like them as individuals. Matakevich,
great guy,
and Saran Neal. We've had on the
Love
show
Saran Neal.
3 years in a row. If you can't play defense or offense, then what are we doing here? Like, honestly, like that should be the starter. Like, you should be able to do both.
It's a pathway for Justin Shorter to be an every week starter next season, right? Like,
Justin Shorter is probably going to take the spot, I would think, of Saran Neal if he can be that gunner.
Right, but I think of guys like Dotson. I think of guys like Dane Jackson, guys that are going to be free agents that you probably look at and target and be like, look, you know the system. We know you. You know us. You're not going to get a better opportunity or a better chance to get on the field. Why not just stay? Mm-hmm. If all things are equal, why not stay? Here's what we're offering, and you can be a part of it. Dodson was just over $2 million last year for his salary. Same with Jackson. And, I don't know if you're able to get them at the same rate, but I think there's a handful of names when you look at the pending free agents on the way out the door that when they test the market, you're going to find out that the grass is actually greener where you water it, and maybe you stay in Buffalo if you're Dotson, if you're Dane Jackson. And there's a handful of other guys on this list as well.
Well, and then like with coaches, you should look at players and positional coaches for connections. And I brought up Leslie Frazier. You could speak to what the defensive line is like for the Chicago Bears. Certainly, they gave Montez Sweat some money here. I'm looking at the cap space they have. Top 51, they have $49 million available.
Yeah,
they have money to spend. Mike Danger, what should be the likelihood that Eric Washington, the defensive corner, is like, you know what? See the success I had with this defensive line in Buffalo. I would like to bring over a Daquan Jones or an AJ Epineza.
Yeah, Epineza I would entertain as a Bear fan. Jones is good, but he's 32. I mean, how much longer and what kind of an investment? You have that kind of space in Chicago to make him a pretty decent deal, but at 32 and coming off that pec injury, maybe. Epineza is more interesting to me because of the youth and because of the upside. But do you need another Epineza in that rotation with Sweat? Like
you don't.
Sweat and Epineza to me are two different stratospheres of player. Like Sweat led both the Commanders and the Bears in sacks last year, which is pretty remarkable. And Epineza showed a lot of flashes and was a good playmaker. But maybe there are some guys that Washington looks at, a Shaq Lawson or a veteran guy like Daquan Jones, where he says, come back. Floyd ain't going to go back to Chicago. That I can tell you. Like, he was drafted by the Bears.
But Floyd ain't going to go back to Chicago, but hear him say, I'm going to follow the money, essentially.
He's gone. Yeah, he's gone. But I don't think he would be somebody that would go back to Chicago. And the Frazier connection is an interesting thing, too, when you consider that Epineza was, how involved in that selection was Leslie Frazier. How much of an advocate for Epineza was Frazier during his time in Buffalo. And if Frazier has familiarity with Epineza and Epineza has familiarity with Frazier, sure, I could see that being a connection.
Yeah, when we talked to Matt Perino yesterday, there's another free agent that we just don't even count because we figure, he's going to retire. But Perino brought up, Leslie Frazier could say to Micah Hyde, hey, come in and just help me establish a culture here in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, that's... you could say the same thing about Steph Diggs. That was my argument with Steph Diggs, right? Like, if you're a team, you could look at what Diggs did with Josh Allen when he came to Buffalo and say, hey, I want you to do the same thing in Carolina with Bryce Young. If you're Dave Canales, right? You're trying to build something and you need weapons for a young quarterback. I'm not worried about what they're doing in Houston, but whoever Chicago drafts, whoever Washington drafts, you want a veteran guy in there that can, set a tone, help build a culture, and improve the play of your quarterback. Yeah, you could do worse than Steph Diggs if you're the Bills and you wanted to move on from him. I'm not saying they're going to. I'm not saying that would even be the best move, but I don't think you can rule it out entirely. And with Hyde or anybody that has connections with Leslie Frazier, if Frazier has familiarity with them and they have familiarity with Frazier and they enjoyed Frazier, and I don't know which player would say they didn't enjoy having Leslie Frazier as a coach. Yeah, you could figure that a handful of these guys could end up in Seattle. Maybe a couple of these guys end up with the Seahawks. That wouldn't surprise me. Can't wait for free agency. We haven't even got to the Super Bowl yet.
Well, we get to the Super Bowl. There'll be a parade in one of these two cities next week, and then the week, President's Week is kind of dead. But then we come back after that. Combine. There is really not an off season. There really isn't.
Yeah. Choose your flex time away wisely, NFL. What do you think? Do you think Bean is enjoying his time? And the Senior Bowl was last week. Do you think this is the week or is it next week? It's the week after the Super Bowl, right? If you're going to take time. If you're Brandon Bean, maybe we're reading this all wrong because this is the same Brandon Bean that loves coming to training camp because it gets him out of going to CVS to pick up a prescription or having to change a diaper.
Oh, he's like next week when the kids are gone, he's gone too.
Yeah.
I think that's like
President's Week.
Yeah, they're going somewhere.
Let's speaking of going someplace, PJ Glasser joining us from Vegas next. He is the host of BetQL's Send It In. We'll get some winners for Sunday. We'll talk some NBA as well. PJ Glasser joins us next on The Fan Rochester.
update.
Buffalo Bills rounding out their coaching staff. Multiple reports have the team hiring Ron Curry as their new quarterback coach. Chris DePasso on One Bills Live today on the move.
It's probably not many more jobs that are more enticing than being able to be the quarterback coach for Josh Allen. You can just look at what happened with Joe Brady, how quickly of a rise he had. So it's a great springboard for a coach like Ronald Curry. With Josh Allen, he will get an elite quarterback to be able to work with.
Curry is a former quarterback at North Carolina, was last on the Saints staff. We'll talk to our buddy PJ Glasser. He's out in Las Vegas. The host is Send It In, joining us next year on the Sports Bar. Syracuse basketball tonight hosting Louisville. The Orange have dropped 2 in a row. Sabres had 48 shots on goal. Only 1 got by in the loss to Dallas. Next up, it's a home game against St. Louis Saturday. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, The Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Not necessarily. I think I just like winning. If you win a lot and that causes you to be a villain, then I'm okay with it. But at the end of the day, I'm going to enjoy playing the game and try to win as much as possible.
You know who that was?
Wow.
Patrick Mahomes. Looking forward to Sunday. Even if he's a villain against the 49ers, we check in with the host of Send It In and Odyssey Sports betting insider PJ Glasser. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. We'll talk some Super Bowl with PJ, but I also know that PJ likes to play some action in the NBA. I like to as well. In fact, I looked at an over-under prop for points today in this Miami-San Antonio matchup, 17.5. I took the over 17.5 for Bam, but I always forget about his last. I can't. How do I? PJ, you know who I'm talking about there? The big man for Miami, Bam something or other.
Bam Adebayo.
Oh, that's right.
Guys, can I tell you, too? So, obviously, we're at the Mandalay Bay, but I had to walk over to the adjoining hotel and talk to you at the Delano. It was only going to be right. So, I'm currently there right now. I couldn't have done the interview anywhere else.
See, that's why. Like PJ's like, I gotta go to a different spot here. PJ, you are the best. Before we talk, like we want to live vicariously through you, PJ. What is it like there during Super Bowl week?
Crazy. It's chaos. There's a lot of people walking around. You know, it's like all these people that you see on TV, you listen to on the radio, former players. You guys know I'm a Ravens fan. Brian Billick, walked past me earlier in the week, so I got a picture with him. So it's cool. You know, if you're sports people like us, obviously this is the biggest sporting event of the year that we have in the country. So it's pretty cool. It's crazy. You know, what's been funny is talking to people who've lived in Vegas for years and looking at the Super Bowl through their eyes and how they can't believe that a Super Bowl is in Las Vegas. So that to me has kind of been the part of this that has been cool, is them talking about, obviously, them thinking that there would never be sports here, let alone a Super Bowl here.
It's funny, too, because any local that I've ever talked to from Vegas, they kind of despise Vegas. Like, they don't really want to go into the casinos or spend time in the casinos. They recognize that it's there, but the majority of their time isn't spent anywhere near the Strip or any of the big casino resorts.
I had a couple of guests on this week, guys, already that live in Vegas, and I'm asking them, you know, what are you going to do for the game? And both of them are like, well, I can tell you I'm not watching on the Strip. You know, I'll either be at home or something like that, or at a house party. But you're right, Danger. I mean, obviously, for people that live out of the country, like the big events, the Super Bowl, first couple days of March Madness, whatever it may be, it seems like a great idea to come to Vegas and watch the big game. But these people that live in Vegas, like you said, especially for these big events, I mean, they don't want to deal with the traffic. They'd rather just watch it at home.
PJ Glasser, your host of Send It In on the BetQL network. And PJ, one of the fun things we can kind of do here, and we could bet the money line, we could do maybe a prop here or there, but I want to get your thoughts on parlays. What is your advice? Do you have anything you're kind of looking at? Because it's fun to win, but we want to win big coming up on Sunday.
Sure. I mean, yeah, everybody wants to hit a good parlay in the Super Bowl. What's good about this game is obviously it's close to a pick'em. San Francisco is only favored by 2, so if you like a side, you're going to get good odds on that, and then you can combine it with the total. usually the way I go about my parlays is I put either 3 or 4 legs in. I usually go with the side I like to win the game. And then I go with usually 1 or 2 touchdown scores. And then I like either doing maybe a passing prop, one of the quarterbacks to go over, under, or one of the receiving props. So if you guys were asking me for a parlay this week, I'd probably go Niners money line, Debo anytime touchdown. I'd look at Purdy over or under passing yards, and then I do like Debo over receiving yards as well. So as you guys can see, the theme for me, I'm liking our boy Debo to have a good game this week in the Super Bowl.
It's funny, though, PJ, you know, whether we talk to you, I think this was your stance last week, we've talked to some other insiders and betting pros, that it's hard to find somebody that's taking that Niners side. I mean, there it feels like there's a lot of people, at least public money, that's coming in on Kansas City. What are you seeing here as far as the trends leading into Sunday?
So it's been so interesting. Danger, when you came on my Sunday show, I thought you gave us a great stat of heading into the postseason, the only team that Kansas City had beaten that was a playoff team was the Dolphins in Germany, and then they played them again. And, you know, that game, obviously, with the weather against Miami, like, you could see why they won. The game against Buffalo, you knew it was going to be a coin toss. That game was coming down to a 3-4 point game either way, like Chiefs-Bills mostly do. But then you got to the Ravens game, and I think most people thought, all right, if the Chiefs are able to win this, like, Mahomes has reached Brady status to the point where, like, it doesn't matter how, on paper, maybe how much worse his team is than the other team. Like, they're just going to find a way to win, and that's kind of what happened. So I think people probably view San Francisco as the better all-around team, but we all thought Baltimore was that way too. Kansas City obviously won on the road. Now they get to play a neutral site game. So for me, I think San Francisco's better, and I know it's not fun betting against Mahomes, especially as an underdog, but there is a reason they're dogs in this game. San Francisco's a better team. If this game was played 3 or 4 weeks ago, the Niners are probably favored by like 5 in the game. So the fact we're getting it under a field goal, I like San Francisco.
So, PJ, asking the sharps versus kind of squares question here. Is it too soon to say where the sharp money is going here? Because to me, I just look at it. You talk to everybody, hey, I'm not betting against Mahomes. I wouldn't bet against Mahomes. So why hasn't the line moved yet significantly on this if everybody supposedly is interested in Kansas City? Where is the sharp money going, or is it too soon to tell?
I think the sharps are on the Niners, Gene. I just think because it's the Super Bowl and there's going to be so much money on this game that, and obviously with this being the final game of the season, and we really know these teams so well, we know how to rate them in the power ratings, and we know how to set these lines. There's really not much, unless you just get an overwhelming amount of sharp money and big players that come in on one side. I think you're right. I would say the sharp side would be on San Francisco, and the more of the squares and the Joes and the public money is going to be on Kansas City. But now that we've gotten to the playoffs and the Super Bowl especially, I mean, there's no way we reach 3 again. I'm thinking the line's probably going to settle at 2, or maybe it'll go back down to 1.5.
Even with Kansas City's defense being what they are, and that's the element of this game that I don't think anybody really talks about, because it's not sexy to talk about Kansas City's defense. I mean, they're just a really, really well-run unit that knows how to shut teams down. That defense versus Brock Purdy doesn't give you pause at all? You don't think? I mean, is there? I guess I should ask, are there matchups we can exploit knowing what we know about Kansas City's defense and Brock Purdy's, at times, inconsistencies?
100%, and that's the thing that concerns me the most. I've been saying all week, guys, on my show, and our BetQL team posted a social clip of this, and everybody was going crazy on it. I mean, when you get to the Super Bowl, you're trying to look for games throughout the season that you can try and compare. Like, what were the matchups that you saw San Francisco or Kansas City play that may give you some insight on who to bet in the game? I keep going back to that San Francisco-Baltimore matchup just because, you know, that Ravens defense is so good. Their secondary is really good. Kansas City and Baltimore are arguably the 2 best defenses with the 2 best secondaries. And, like, look at what the Ravens were able to do to Purdy in that game, right? And that was a huge game. That was prime time, Christmas Day, best 2 teams in football. I understand Purdy's had some nice moments in the playoffs, but, I mean, with that Kansas City secondary, guys, and Spagnuolo being so good, especially in the playoffs, that 100% is the thing that concerns me. But I do think the Niners will run the ball. I think it'll be McCaffrey. I think we see Debo, maybe some Elijah Mitchell. So I'm willing to look past the Purdy matchup against the pass defense because I do think the Niners will have a big advantage in the ground game.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go. PJ Glasser is our guest because when you look at the Chiefs here in the postseason, and okay, the Dolphins, whatever, the Bills were running the ball effectively against Kansas City, and had Buffalo actually managed the end of the game better, who knows? Maybe the Bills would have been moving on, but they didn't. So it brings us now to the AFC Championship game. And PJ, I don't mean to, bring this up as you being a Raven fan, but why you're only running the ball less than 10 times, I have no idea. So with that being said, I would think the game plan would be pretty simple: heavy doses of McCaffrey and Debo, and keeping it on the ground. As far as player props when it comes to those two guys and rushing, you mentioned Debo before as far as yards, but as far as rushing yards, is there anything of value in your opinion?
Yes, Gene, yes. Debo over 13.5 rushing yards is one of my favorite props. Really, really like that. McCaffrey's is around the 90s. On BetMGM, it's about 92.5. That feels about right. I would look at like a longest rush for CMC. Again, the Ravens in that first quarter, guys, think about it. That fourth down keeper with Lamar runs for 20 yards. Gus Edwards runs through for 16. Obviously, the Bills were gashing them for some big runs, too. I mean, Kansas City, that's how you move the ball against them. Their secondary is so good. And to your point, it's just that Ravens game plan, I'll truly never understand why they thought that was the way to go. They were playing the entire second half like they were down by 4 scores. Just never made sense. So San Francisco, they know the blueprint. They have the capability to run the ball and run the ball effectively, and I think that's what they're going to do. We knock Shanahan all the time for being conservative in these kind of big games, but this is actually one of those games you want to be conservative. Like, if the run is working, keep running the ball. Lean on McCaffrey, lean on Debo, and move the ball that way, and I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, and I feel like we keep bringing it up to try and convince you that you're wrong by thinking that the Niners are going to win this game, PJ, but the Niners really didn't play a complete game through the course of the postseason either. I mean, do you have faith and confidence that Shanahan can get this team to play a full 60 minutes? Because against Kansas City, you need to play a near perfect game to get over on them.
And that's another part of the handicap, right? It's also the recency bias. And it's one thing, people are afraid to bet against the Chiefs because of Mahomes, but they also just saw Kansas City go on the road and beat Buffalo and beat Baltimore. And you've seen San Francisco win 2 games that they shouldn't have won. They certainly shouldn't have won the Lions game. They were down 17.5, and they shouldn't have won the Packers game either. So it's like, are you going to bet on what you saw for most of the season, or are you going to bet on the Chiefs being the Chiefs and what they are in the playoffs? So it's a tough call. I mean, I understand why people would bet on the Chiefs, but I think San Francisco's better. It's why they're favored in the game. Vegas, the odds makers, they understand, that they're going to take some Chiefs money with Mahomes being a dog. But I'm going to ride with San Francisco, fellas. I think they're the better team. I think it's their time. It's probably going to be the last time this core group is together. You could have some guys leaving the off season, so I'll ride with the Niners. I think they're going to win the game.
PJ Glasser giving us some great advice here. PJ, anything else this weekend other than the game we can play? I mean, we love golf in this show. You love golf too. Phoenix Open, anything catch your eye with that?
Yeah, a couple of guys at 28-1 that I like, fellas. Sung J M and Wyndham Clark. So Scotty Scheffler is the back-to-back defending champion, and course history is really important here. And the kind of golfer that you need to have success here, it's a high-risk, high-reward golf course. There's going to be a lot of shots that these guys face where they could take out a wood, try and fly the water, and go for, an eagle or a birdie attempt, or they could play it safe and try and just make pars. So you got to be an elite ball striker, you got to be accurate, and you got to be a great scrambler. And Sung J M and Wyndham Clark are both that. That's how Wyndham Clark won the U.S. Open. He was so good with his ball striking, and then he was great with his short game as well. Sung J M, last 4 times he's played here, he's finished in the top 23 of those times. So I think there's some good value on those guys at 28-1. I feel good about one of those guys contending this week.
PJ, what about tonight's slate in the NBA? And the clock is ticking here. Some of these teams might look very different here over the course of the next few days.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under in Cavs and Wizards tonight at 234.5. Anytime there's a Wizards game that's involved in the mid 230s, guys. I'm going to trust the odds makers and take the under in that game. I also like Golden State at 5.5 against the Sixers. That line continues to go up. Embiid, fellas, might win the MVP just because of how valuable he is when he doesn't play. Like, the Sixers are not a good team when he's not out on the floor. Maxi's not going to play tonight. And Golden State's got to continue to win. I mean, they're just battling to get into the play-in tournament. So I'll take the Cavs, Wizards under, and I'll do the Warriors minus the 5.5 tonight.
Yeah, it's funny, PJ, because the next thing betting-wise that we will have, and we're going to be really diving into, is in March. And I feel like it's always like every year we're cramming at the end. I'm talking we, meaning Danger Eye and everybody else that's listening, not you. So, like, when it comes to college basketball, is there anything tonight that catches your eye?
So I got 3 plays for you guys tonight. First one's going to be the under in Georgia, Mississippi State at 144.5. Mississippi State just came off a tough week. They played at Ole Miss in a rivalry game, gave up 80 points, played in Tuscaloosa against Bama, who's got one of the best offenses in the country, gave up 100 points. They got one of the best defenses in the country, but right now I think the total's a little bit inflated because of their last 2 games. Georgia's really not that good offensively. They don't play at that fast of a pace. I think the number's too high, so I like the under in that game. I like an Auburn-Northwestern moneyline parlay. Both teams are about 5.5-point favorites. Don't want to bet the spread on either game, but I do really like the money line. Auburn doesn't lose at home. Nebraska never wins on the road. So I like Northwestern, and I like Bama. And then a game in your guys' neck of the woods. I heard you talk about Syracuse at the top. I actually like Louisville tonight, plus the points, plus 8.5. Just because, guys, of the Benny Williams, dismissal and the distraction for the team, right? Like, if this was Duke, if this was Carolina, that's one thing, right? Like, you get rid of the distractions, you focus on those 2 teams. But it's like you're playing Louisville at home. Like, are they really going to get up for that game? And there's clearly stuff going on behind the scenes. Louisville, by the way, is coming off their best game in 2 years. They just dropped 101 on Florida State. So I'm taking that narrative and fading kind of the mess right now with Syracuse. I'll take Louisville plus 8.5. And you know what? For the Syracuse fans listening, maybe you do a little emotional hedge and take some money line on Louisville too.
Yeah, it's funny because, PJ, you're right about that. And maybe it's because it's Louisville and you look at them. But I get the sense there's going to be a lot of empty seats tonight. You can get tickets for $6. And when the Dome is rocking, it's great. And when you're playing a Colgate or some team like that, it's so that could kind of play into it tonight too. That you get this sleepy weeknight game that the Orange trip up on.
No question, and that's the narrative, guys. Like, if you're betting college basketball right now that we're into the first week of February, getting closer and closer to March. Obviously, these teams are now kind of midway through conference play, and you can kind of play off of these situational spots, right? So on Monday night, Kansas was coming off that big win against Houston. They turn around and lose to Kansas State. How about North Carolina? After that huge win against Duke, turn around at home, they lose to Clemson. These are 20-year-old kids, right? I mean, they get highs and they have lows. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I know Louisville's awful. It wouldn't shock me in the least if Syracuse won by 20-25 tonight just because Louisville is that bad. But at the same time, guys, I mean, like you said, there's not going to be many people in the seats. This is certainly a game where you could have a letdown. You're just going through the motions. And Louisville's going to continue to battle. I mean, they're clearly fighting. So I'll take a shot with Louisville against Syracuse tonight. We'll see what kind of response the Orange have.
Well, it's not one that we can legally bet on in our state because it's Syracuse. But you know what? Just having this conversation with you, PJ, and just to review, you like Louisville, you like Auburn and Northwestern as a moneyline parlay, and the under in Georgia, Mississippi State. Did I get all those right?
You did. That's correct. Yeah. So what's good too, fellas, first 2 days at Mandalay Bay, the guy who's betting my tickets is Rodney. I went right back up to him. I said, Rodney, let's stay hot. We're 5-1 this week. Let's keep it going. He said, all right. So
that's
hopefully
great.
Those continue to hit.
And PJ, here's the other thing. It is kind of bittersweet because this is our last week being able to talk NFL football with you, but we know we're going to have you here through the course of the NBA season. And of course, when we get to March, man, PJ, I can't wait because there's nothing better than March Madness when we start talking about some of these games and making a little bit of money.
It's his wheelhouse too, college basketball.
Oh. Guys, I'm telling you, I kind of want to just stay out in Vegas for the next month so I don't have to leave it. I can just stay for March Madness. I mean, it's the best. It really is. I can't wait to continue talking with you guys. Yeah, football's gone, but this is when college hoops starts to get good, and so it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, PJ, enjoy your time in Vegas. Enjoy the game on Sunday, and we'll talk to you again next week, same time. What do you say?
Always a pleasure, fellas. Enjoy the game Sunday.
You got it,
Thanks,
buddy.
PJ.
There he is, PJ Glasser. He's the host of BetQL's Send It In, an Odyssey Sports betting insider as well. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app.
All right, a lot there. I'm gonna push aside the Syracuse stuff here just for a second.
Yeah.
Sharp money on the Niners.
Yeah. I get it.
It feels the recency bias. Ooh, didn't look that great against the Packers. Ooh, yeah, had a rally against the Lions.
Yeah. I do. I feel like the matchup that could be the most exploited and the thing that could lead to San Francisco's demise is Brock Purdy's propensity to make mistakes against a good defense. We saw in that game that he mentioned, the Ravens. You know, it's funny. Like, PJ is giving you all the reasons why you should take Kansas City, yet he's on the Niners.
He's on the Niners.
The Niners are favored for a reason. He's not wrong. The Niners are a more complete team. They have a good defense. They have a good run game. They have a good head coach. Their quarterback is good, but he's not Patrick Mahomes.
Well, tomorrow on the show, Dante Whitner comes in.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and like look, we go to the 4-interception game on Christmas night, and Dante was the one to point out, like, look, only 2 of those were really on the kid.
On Purdy, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get into that tomorrow afternoon, 3:25. Now, you're going to be on assignment tomorrow, so Ryan Duffy.
On assignment. Last time I'm on assignment. No, Danger's actually going to be like, you sure you got more assignments? I'm sending you out to cover girls lacrosse down in,
Duffy's going to, come into the studio and magically leave something in your drink, in your water bottle for the. Ryan Duffy from the Let's Go Duffalo podcast will be joining us tomorrow for an abbreviated sports bar from 3 until 5:30. Gino will be stopping by. You'll be stopping by during happy hour, right? 5 o'clock.
Absolutely.
And we'll have Dante Whitner from NBC Sports Bay Area and CBS Sports, former Buffalo Bill, current Niners analyst, 3:25 tomorrow afternoon.
So, to go back to what PJ said about Syracuse, and I know probably Orange fans are going to get offended at that. You can't lose to Louisville. But
by the way, if that's offensive to you, if you're an Orange fan, get over yourself. Look at your team right now. Like, this is a team that is a mess. And Autry is drawing a line in the sand and trying to figure out who's with me and who's not. I don't have any problem with him doing what he did.
Well, tonight's going to go one of two ways, right? Either they, like PJ said, either they win by 25, okay, everything's fine, we beat an inferior opponent, or
or the downward spiral continues.
And coincidentally or not, here comes the hologram picking a little verbal spar with Joe Lunardi.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like, Jim Boeheim, like, is he trying to tee up some sort of weird argument for his team?
No, you know what he's doing, Gene? He's doing his job.
Well,
he's delivering takes, and he's got you riled up, so he succeeds.
I'm going to tell you Lunardi's take.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to go to, I don't know, facts. We'll go to the stats. We'll go to the analytics. We'll see who's right. Is it Lunardi or is it Boeheim? That coming up. And, hey, I saw something that Nate Geary put out. I'm like, oh, my gosh. And we can explore this. Because last night I was calling Fisher basketball, which great games. Fisher men lost. The women blew out Utica. If I were home last night, I would have been watching the Knicks over the Sabres.
Ooh. Yeah.
Look, you know where my loyalties are.
Yeah.
I'm Sabre fan, Amherst fan through and through, right? Dormant Knick fan, but then something's kind of awakening. But why is that? Does that make me a bad local sports fan? I think I'm not the only one having this debate.
A little internal struggle there. All right, we'll get into that and more next. Yeah, we haven't even talked about the Sabres. Yeah, we're almost an hour into the show. Didn't even bring it up. We'll get to that and more next. I'll drink to that. It's on the way. We have time for your calls on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line if you want to pull up a stool. The number is 866-4326-585-866-4FAN. We're wishing you a happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate. FanDuel, America's number
And W239BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
Buffalo Bills rounding out their coaching staff as Ron Curry is the new quarterback coach. Not officially, but multiple reports, including they were talking about today on One Bills Live. Here's Steve Tasker.
He's been in New Orleans coaching their wide receivers, quarterbacks, and been their passing game coordinator for the last 7 seasons. He was under Sean Payton. He's been under Dennis Allen. He's also worked in the past with Jim Harbaugh.
And there's one other big connection here that he worked with Joe Brady in New Orleans.
Syracuse basketball tonight hosting Louisville. The Orange have dropped 2 in a row. Sabres had 48 shots on goal, yet they only scored once in the loss to Dallas. Next up, it's a home game against St. Louis coming up Saturday afternoon. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Hit the slopes. Some discounted passes to Swain. Log on to GetMyPerks.com today. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The Bills, they're working to hire Ron Curry as the quarterback coach / passing game coordinator. They have to replenish this roster.
Mike Danger.
I'm Danger.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
I'm the sarcastic one. Gene is the credible, mostly serious guy who's the hardcore sports man. I'm just joking around. It's not that serious to me.
Gene Battaglia.
Live Club Chino. Yeah.
He's got the strobe light going.
On ETX Live.
DJ Eugene Lover.
People would tune in from our show just to hear me spinning the tunes. A 2-1 loss to the Dallas Stars.
Ottinger won that game for him. 48 shots the Sabres threw at Ottinger. He was unbelievable.
More consistently inconsistent.
Amerks Hockey.
Guess how many games they have? 9 games.
9 games.
9 times.
Yeah.
In 16 days.
She's just 16 years old.
My focus is on Syracuse.
Crunch.
Tiger Woods. Tiger is back.
All-star guard Jalen Brunson twisted his right ankle last night, did not finish. Popcorn is overrated.
All right. You ever notice you do that? All right.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Back in the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Great conversation last hour with PJ Glasser. Joined us from Las Vegas. We'll have another guest joining us from Vegas. Next on the Sports Bar, we check in with our buddy from Blogging the Boys, SB Nation. That's RJ Ochoa, who's there in Vegas to take on this weekend's festivities.
Yeah, I'll get to this Boeheim-Lunardi thing here in a little bit. Looking forward to talking to RJ Ochoa. We do have time for your calls in this segment, 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
Let's get to some takes on tap, Gino.
Yeah, I saw this from our buddy Nate Geary, who posted this today. He said it felt weird last night. What would feel weird? And, well, you had a night where the Sabres and the Knicks were playing at the same time, and he opted not to watch the Sabres. They actually watch the Knicks. Nate, it shouldn't feel weird. It's okay. Look, the Knicks are the more compelling team, but there's something... I think there's something in our DNA as a sports fan that says we need to be with our team through thick and thin, particularly when it comes to a local team. And if you fall in the same boat as Nate and I, where you're a Sabre fan and a Knicks fan, there's no debate here. You're watching the Knicks last night. If you think both sports are on an even plane, you're watching the team that has something to play for. If you disagree with me on this, that's fine too. Don't shame somebody who identifies through thick and thin. But for the fan who says, a Sabre fan that says, you know what, I'm good here, that does not make you less of a fan.
Yeah, I think that what the Sabres have shown you through their actions this season is that you're not ready to come back yet. They're not ready to have us yet because the product has been mediocre at best. They've been more consistently inconsistent, the line I like to keep using. Now, I do think that there is something to how you grew up and what sports you may have played growing up. Personally, I'm going to watch hockey over basketball because that's the sport I'm familiar with. It's the sport I grew up playing. If you played basketball growing up, you probably look at hockey like, I don't get it. It's not for me. I'd rather watch the Knicks. It's all good, and there's enough room for everybody to enjoy their favorite sport or their favorite team, and you shouldn't feel shame or you shouldn't feel down, even if that team happens to reside in your backyard the way the Sabres do for us. Hey, man, look, I'm the one that was saying all last week, like, wow, the Knicks are fun. This is a lot of fun watching this team.
To me, it's about the E word, expectation. And I think our expectation with the Sabres was, I don't think it was make the postseason, but let's not be embarrassing. Let's not take a giant step backward. This team is 10 points out of a playoff position. Well, where they ended up last year was just a point. So, like, how are they going to get over the hump? Well, they're not anywhere close to that right now. Where the Knicks, they're best team in the East right now.
Yeah, and giant step backwards, I wouldn't call this season a giant step backwards. It is certainly a step backwards. Giant step backward would be like, oh no, you're back like, worst team in the league status, where they have been, and we have suffered through years of the drought. They're just not playing up to the level of expectation. You're right, and there are moments where, like last night, where you could be like, UPL played well. Yeah, I'm sorry, Ettinger was better. He was just better, and you need to play better. These guys need to play better. And, Darlene, for all the saves that Ottinger made last night, like, hey, here's a thought. Maybe not just shoot it right at him, or not shoot it when he has a clear line of vision, because I felt like most of those shots were very, very easy saves for that goaltender to make. And I think Darlene recognized that as well. You didn't watch the game. I'll explain it to you. He had plenty of opportunities to cash in. And when he didn't, he was visibly frustrated on the ice, exasperated, stick over the head, just,
can't do that.
Throwing a puck.
Can't do that.
Yep. And this is one of your captains. If that's the case, if that frustration is with him, then I wonder how much of that is prevalent throughout the court. And look, they're all pressing. That's the problem. They're pressing. I think they're just pressing, and they feel the pressure, and the pressure's not going to go away the rest of this season. And we said they needed to lose no less than 10 games. Well, there's one.
Yeah, now it's the magic number 9.
Yeah, now they got to lose 9. Speaking of the magic number, if I may, I want to highlight a couple of our listeners. First, I want to highlight Chris, who came into the studios here at High Falls last Thursday. And I apologize for not doing this sooner. He met with my wife, Sandy, who's part of one of their features that they're doing on their show with Spazzano and Sandy on the Buzz. And Sandy's getting upset because this has become a growing theme. She'll talk to people that listen to her show, and
they say, "I love your husband's show."
Yes. Can we meet Danger? Can I see Danger? She ran into, I want to say it was Nick. I think it was Nick at Ide a few weeks ago, and the same thing occurred. She's like, this is becoming like a theme where as soon as she meets somebody, the first thing that they're saying is, "Hey, is Danger here? Can we meet? We'd really like to meet Danger." So she's giving me a little hard time on that. But Chris, we appreciate you listening, and also want to appreciate Dan, who took to social media to rank his top 10 favorite sports talk shows. Now, Dan, is a listener, so we want to be respectful. At the same time, where do you think Dan ranked us? And do you think he did this by design? Do you think we're actually higher on his rankings, or do you think he's just being cute?
I think he's being kitschy here, which I'm totally fine with, Dan. And also, Danger, there's only one other local show that got in the rankings, that being One Bills Live. And One Bills Live was Steve Tasker. Okay, Tasker's ahead of us on the list. That's okay.
No, I'm not satisfied with 9th. I'm not going to take that lightly. And I know that there's no shame in that, but that's not where I want to finish. I'm not happy about being 9th. So working harder to move up Dan's rankings starting now. And Dan, we're going to hold you accountable as well. You think that these rankings are going to be annual rankings? Oh, no. We want monthly updates.
Well, he hasn't revealed his top 4 yet. So where I'm saying, this is fine and everything, if he puts in some show that was on the air in Rochester years ago.
Number 2, Bob Matthews, even though it hasn't been on the air for
Number 2, the radio press box.
Yeah, Dan, we're going to trust that you're a credible fan of sports talk radio, and your rankings carry some weight with us. Do them monthly so we can see just how much we're progressing up your rankings. We want to see growth. We want to see progress. We're going to hold you accountable just like you hold us accountable. We appreciate you listening to the show. Just know that we are not satisfied with being, at least I believe I'm speaking for you as well. We are not satisfied with being 9th on Dan's rankings of his favorite sports talk shows. Not good enough.
Not good enough. Before we get to your calls, I got one take here on Syracuse basketball. Actually, it's not a Syracuse basketball take. It's a Jim Boeheim take, and this is a little spicy here. Jim Boeheim weighing in. ESPN's Joe Lunardi. You know Joe Lunardi. This is his entire life, ranking teams, who's in, who's out. He says right now the ACC has only 3 teams that will get into the tournament. Okay. Who would be those 3 teams? It's North Carolina, Virginia, Duke. Nobody else. Says Boeheim, quote, to say there's only 3 teams in the tournament, I don't know what metrics you're using. You're using blind man metrics. That's what you're using. All right, so, Danger, who is right here? Jim Boeheim? Joe Lunardi. All right, so let's just kind of assume North Carolina, although North Carolina last night, did you see that loss?
Oh, I'm on BetQL every day. I go on BetQL every day because I like to have an advantage. I want to look for edges where I can find them, and they do a great job of diving into the lines and watching how the lines are moving and where there are spots. We talk about wanting to cash in on those spots. And one of the BetQL analysts yesterday wrote about that specific game, that this is a letdown spot for Carolina.
Well, you look at the history of that series. Clemson was 1-59 at Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
You think, oh my gosh, those two no, not even close.
Yeah.
Well, that win number 2 came last night.
He also identified, I believe, Kansas State earlier in the week as well. Like they do a great job of identifying spots, following the trends, and helping you beat the books. They check it every day.
So 3 teams. Okay, I'm going to assume Lunardi's saying North Carolina, Virginia, and Duke. Okay, those are the 3 teams in. But then when Boeheim's saying there should be 6, who would be the next? Well, the next 3 in the standings are NC State, Wake, and Florida State, which
okay, all right.
Yeah, that's kind of like it's like someone cut one, right? Like they don't feel like tournament teams. So, all right, let's go to a respected metric. Should we, Jim? Ken Palm. All right. So, where do you think these are ranked? Actually, Wake Forest is ranked 25th in Ken Palm.
Okay.
North Carolina State, 76. How many teams are in the tournament? Oh, yeah, they would be out. Florida State, 81st.
Yeah.
And in case you were curious, Syracuse is 88th, which would also put them way, way out. So 3 teams, all right, I'll give you 1 maybe. But I'm sorry, Jim, that's not blind man metrics.
Well, I think you're viewing what's being said here by both of these men through the wrong filter, because there isn't a right or a wrong, and there never is. There's just takes. And Lunardi has his analytics to back up his takes, whereas Boeheim has his emotional investment to back up his takes. And that's all this is. It's just 2 guys, 2 takesmen now being paid to deliver heat. And they can feel that heat as it comes out of their mouth. They can feel it as it crosses their tongue.
Lunardi is not a takesman. His job is actually, this is my track record.
These are takes.
No, he is not a take. He is forecasting. He's trying to
I'm telling
set the table there.
Ken Palm is a take.
Ken Palm is not a take. That's straight math, dude.
It's a take.
No, no. Now you're upsetting me.
He's using it to support his take. His take that 3 teams will be in the tournament. Versus, and you hear, if you're Jim Boeheim, here's why it's a take. Because if you're Jim Boeheim, you hear 3 teams, and you immediately get upset. What are you looking at? That's ridiculous. You're a blind man if you can't see that more than 3 teams. So they're both delivering takes, and there's no right or wrong. And eventually, you might be right, Gino. It might be 4 teams.
But isn't that like, when you're having a sports, you're blind, like blind man metrics, like Jim. Jim, can you fortify that argument?
He needs to spend a little bit more time with Stephen A, and he'll get better at his craft.
You can give us a call at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Rick wants to talk a little Syracuse, and he's calling from Rochester.
What up,
hey,
Rick?
What's going on, buddy?
Hey, I don't know if you noticed, when Benny Williams got the technical foul, and he threw the ball, and then he was taken out of the game, he walked to the end of the bench, and he spit. And I haven't heard anybody mention that. I don't know if you can see it on YouTube, but he let go a big wad of spit, and I wonder how much of an effect that had, and if you guys have heard any specifics on the reason he's gone.
Well, Rick, I appreciate the call, and truthfully, I was calling the RIT game on Saturday, so I did not see that. I can go look it up. I just point to he was suspended back in December. So if you are suspended for 2 games, somebody who in the course of his career started 25 games for the Orange, so this is a guy that's actually kind of important, and he was coming off the bench, and maybe his numbers were a little bit down. But you're not suspending a player unless you got we got a real problem here, and this is like kind of your last warning sort of thing.
Yeah, this is Red Autry flexing. This is line in the sand time. You're either with me or you're against me. If you want to be a part of this team, here's how it's going to go. And if you don't want to be a part of this team, we'll move on without you, and we will be fine. You're not above the Orange. You're a part of this team. I get all of that. And as far as what led to his dismissal, look, there's a lot of things that we don't get the chance to see. Maybe it was as simple as he let a giant Greg Louganis out while he was at the end of the bench. Or maybe there's a lot more to it behind the scenes that we don't have access to or we don't get to see. We don't know what the relationship is between player and coach. But you have to imagine, given the history and that suspension, that it wasn't good and he wasn't getting better. And if he wasn't going to play along and do what the coach was asking him to do, you're gone. That's life. That's a life lesson. That's a hard life lesson for Benny Williams. And I think he'll be fine. And I think the Orange will be fine. Maybe not this year, but long term, I like what Autry did here. I think this is a good line in the sand moment. And maybe you're using him as an example, but if he's truly not on board with your program and what you're trying to accomplish, then get him out of here. You don't need him.
Yeah, he skipped the handshake line too. Where do we come down on that?
Skipping that, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Come on. Have some class. Okay, you're competitive. We're all competitive. Nobody wants to lose. Show some respect. I'm big on that. Gotta respect your opponent afterwards. I mean, again, growing up playing hockey and even in men's league hockey, when you shake your hands after the game, like there are guys that you're playing against, you're like, I hate that guy. If I see that guy up at the bar, I'm gonna throw. I want to, during the game, you want to throw it down. Can't do it. Gotta respect.
You can grit your teeth while you're going through the line. You don't have to say a word. But
that's right. You have to show that. That's sportsmanship. That's a low bar to clear, man. You gotta at least show that respect. And I never liked that when the pros did it. It rubs a lot of people the wrong way. But with Williams, I just think that look, kid, if you're not on board with what we're trying to do here, if you can't get in line with the program, we will be fine without you. This is a moment for Autry to show the rest of the guys on his team, you're either with me or you're not. And if you want to leave at the end of this year, that's fine. We will find other guys. We will continue the program. You are not bigger than the program. The program will be just fine.
So when we talked to PJ Glasser, because honestly, it never even crossed my mind that tonight I just figured, all right, this will wake everybody up, and they're going to blow out a really inferior opponent of Louisville. And by the way, what the heck happened to Louisville basketball? But that's a different topic. PJ bringing up that these things have a negative effect on teams sometimes. And then when you factor in, wait a second, sleepy Wednesday night and Syracuse, PJ is saying we can't do this in New York State. Take Louisville in the points tonight.
Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility. You're a good team. If you want to be considered a good team, you throttle an inferior opponent. But Syracuse has just looked flat. And that the dismissal of Williams has had an effect on the players. There are players on this team that love that guy. They're going to miss that guy. They wish they were playing with that guy. He's not on the team anymore. How do they respond? How do they react? And again, I think this is a true line in the sand, a defining moment for Autry in his young coaching career. Will they respond the way you want them to respond, or will they continue down this spiral? Because if you lose to Louisville tonight, then there's going to be some pitchforks out. Like, what is this program doing? What happened? How did it get so bad? And maybe it's just like, all right, let's just play it out through the season, start over from scratch. I mean, this is what NIL allows you to do. Next season, you're coming back with a whole new roster, and maybe the results are better when you get guys that are more bought into what you're selling if you're Red Autry. It'll be interesting to see. Too bad that we can't legally play some action on that game, but we'll monitor what the Orange do here against an inferior opponent in Louisville tonight. And if you're listening to PJ likes taking Louisville with the points.
Yeah, that game tonight on the ACC network. The other thing, too, that we haven't touched on, and you saw this, like, wait a second, ESPN, Fox, Turner all in business together to launch their new streaming service.
Sports only.
Sports only. Everybody's saying, well, this is great. It's going to save me money.
No.
Are you kidding? It's going to save you money. They'll know the exact price point.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to save you money.
I mean, what is the price point for all of it? If ESPN was no longer available on your platform of choice or your cable provider or your satellite provider, if it was no longer available and they bundled ESPN with Turner and with all the regional sports networks and everything and just offered you one giant sports package, what would that be worth to you? What would you pay for that? Because I have a number in my head of what I could live with, and it would probably mean that I would cancel my other streaming services.
Well, that's the thing, too. And if it's just a decision for me, but like us, we live in households, Danger, where there are non-sports
Well,
fans
I can justify it to my wife because she doesn't watch. I mean, she's not a big TV watcher, and we have other streaming platforms that we can enjoy.
Just my personal history, and it's because, I was on YouTube, and then they ditched the MLB network, and I'm like, oh, I can't do. And then they got rid of SNY. I'm like, you're gone.
Yeah.
You're gone. So I'm over on Fubo, and I'm paying $90 a month now, and so
well, that's
going to be the number, right?
The thing that I don't know that it'll be that high for the sports content exclusively. But the thing about people thinking that it's going to save you money, I mean, the what I find most hilarious about the new age that we're in terms of how we consume this content. I mean, for years, the complaint was cable has all these channels and I only watch 4. And, if we only had a la carte, they should allow us to pick the channels that we want and we just pay for the channels that we watch and we pay for the channels that we want. Well, now you essentially have that. Have you saved the kind of money that you thought you were going to save when you have 5 different subscriptions? The answer is no. You're probably even paying more now than you were initially with your provider of choice back then.
So you do a lot of reads on our station, Danger, for FanDuel and others. Hi, I'm Mike Danger here for cable. Are you upset that you have 4 streaming providers? Yeah. Cable can offer you the cost alternative.
Yeah, look, I don't know what that looks like.
How do you like my fake Mike Danger voice, by the way?
Is that what I sound like?
I'm doing my Mike Danger impression.
Do I sound like Casey Kasem?
I'm Mike Danger. Coming up next, 98PXY.
Gene, I don't sound like Casey Kasem. What are you doing?
Mike Danger for cable.
I won't listen to this. I won't stand for this. This is insulting. Reach for the stars and keep your feet. Go ahead.
I'm Mike Danger. Keep your feet in the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
I don't sound like that. Knock it off, pal. God, this guy. Will I endorse cable? Look, I'll listen to anybody that wants to throw money my way. Can I say I'm a whore? Yeah, let's go. What's the number though? What would you pay for that kind of package? Where would you cap it? Would you cap it at 50? Would you cap it?
Dude, I can't live without baseball in the summer. You need it.
Right.
You need it, so that's why.
I mean, I'm on Fubo because I get MSG. I need to see the Sabres. That's the only one that carries MSG. Therefore, I will be on Fubo. But I know MSG they're rolling out their own platform.
See, here's the thing. You think that you will still get ESPN on YouTube or what? No. They'll all disappear. And then the only place you can actually go, and that being it, and then it'll start off at an okay price, maybe $95 a month, and it'll go up and up and up and up.
Yeah. If it starts up, if the starting price is that high, that's a tough one. I might walk away from that. I might not pay that because that's a gouge. That feels way too high.
Well, the other thing, the X factor in this too, is we don't know, like when rights go up, like will your Netflix, will your Amazon get more and more here?
I mean, I'm kind of selective in which ones I've chosen. Like I don't really care about Netflix. I hear a lot about the shows that are on Netflix. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't. Tiger King, not for me. I don't really care. I'm sure there are plenty of good shows on Netflix, but for me, I'm a ESPN Plus, Disney, Hulu. That I like that one, and I like that with my Fubo. And I'm pretty well covered. I don't really need anything else. Like Prime, sure. Yes, give me Prime because it's included. But everything else is like, meh. Yeah, the Paramount ads are going to be great. They're fantastic. They're going to get you attention in the Super Bowl when you see Tua trying to throw Arnold over those mountains over there.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be enough to get me to add another subscription. Peacock had me for a month. Bye-bye. Ultimately, if they said to me $25 and you get all of this sports content, I would do that. That feels reasonable. If you came to me and said $95, I got to do a double take on that one. We'll see. RJ Ochoa is at the Super Bowl. He's in Vegas, blogging the boys for SB Nation. The Cowboys are looking for a defensive coordinator. And we won't just talk to RJ just about what the Cowboys are doing, but we'll dive into this here because there's a couple of names.
Wow.
One specifically that when we saw, we're like,
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Make it happen. Hire this guy, you coward. Let's go. Let's get him back in the league. We'll talk to RJ about Rex Ryan interviewing with the Cowboys for the defensive coordinator position. First, let's get to the spot to Del Monte, Gino, because Valentine's Day is coming up, of course. And if you're ready, guys, nothing says I love you more than a gift card to the spot to Del Monte. They may not tell you what they actually want for Valentine's Day, but a gift card from the spot to Del Monte shows how much you've been paying attention. So let's go caller 5 right now at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. If you're caller 5, we'll get you a $100 gift card to the spa at the Del Monte just in time for Valentine's Day. Gift cards available also for purchase or in-store online at delmontespa.com. Caller 5, 866-4326, $100 gift card to the spa at the Del Monte from the Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across the country and get the inside scoop from experts. AUDACY. Odyssey.
Hey everyone, it's Joe Montana. Spreading the word about pneumococcal pneumonia, a potentially serious bacterial lung disease that can be life-threatening. If you're 65 or older like me, you're at increased risk. So, what's the game plan? A strong defense. Pneumococcal pneumonia can strike at any time in any season, so you shouldn't wait to help protect yourself. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist about vaccination today and learn more at knowpneumonia.com. That's KNOW pneumonia.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
DWI, who do you hire? Ask a cop, a judge, a friend. They'll say Ed Fiondoc. Better yet, ask someone who had a DWI. They'll say Ed Fiondoc, or I wish I had hired Ed Fiondoc. NYDWI.com.
Cracked windshield? Chipped windshield? Get it fixed fast. Call your neighborhood glass company, Ray Sands Glass. Ray Sands Glass accepts your insurance. Did you know you can choose any glass company you want for repairs? Come see in Rochester or Canandaigua, or we'll come to you. Choosing Ray Sands Glass means you're doing business with your neighbors. And Ray Sands Glass does all types of glass repairs, including auto, commercial, and residential. Just go to raysandsglass.com and request a quote. Don't wait. Go to raysandsglass.com and get your glass fixed fast.
We fix it fast.
Hey, this is Gene Battaglia. Join us for the excitement of St. John Fisher University basketball this season here on the Fan Rochester. Tomorrow, the Cardinals play at Houghton. The women at 5:30, the men tip at 7:30. St. John Fisher basketball is brought to you in part by Camp Good Days and Special Times, Canandaigua National Bank and Trust, Monroe Roadways, Whitney & Company, and by Top Notch Monogramming. St. John Fisher basketball. Coverage begins at 5:30 tomorrow here on the Fan Rochester.
Tom Walls didn't invent the cheeseburger, but we're pretty good at making them. Fresh ground steak pressed out daily using a glass pie plate. I'm Abby from Tom Walls Avon, and I want to cook you the best cheeseburger in upstate New York. Tom Walls. Good, good.
Tom Walls. Thanks for calling Discover. This is Anjali.
Hi, it's Jennifer Coolidge. I just got an alert for a strange charge on my card.
No problem. We make sure you're never held responsible for unauthorized purchases on your Discover card. Let's see. Did you purchase something from a t-shirt cannon store yesterday?
Absolutely not. No, I already have like 3.
$0 fraud liability guarantee. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Limitations apply.
Hey, it's Tiki Barber. eBay Motors has everything you need to keep your ride or die alive. From superchargers, brakes, exhaust kits, and more. With over 122 million parts, eBay Motors levels your baby up to its peak performance. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home the win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Hi, I'm John Simonian, president of the Source Fine Jewelers. Treat your sweetheart to diamonds and dinner. Now through Valentine's Day, save 25 to 50% off store-wide. Plus, receive a gift card to one of Rochester's hottest restaurants, Velvet Belly, The Revelry, or Bronca Midtown. Spoil them with gold, silver, and diamonds from the Source, and we'll pay for date night. Valentine's Day is made easy at The Source in Greece, Pittsford, or Eastview Mall.
Exclusions apply. See store for details.
You love sports, and so do we. Download the free Odyssey app to listen to games, podcasts, and radio stations like The Fan Rochester for free. Odyssey, for everything Bills, Sabres, and Amherst. Follow The Fan Rochester in the Odyssey app.
No one talks more about local sports than the Fan Rochester. That's because we're the only sports station with hosts who actually live here. 95.7 and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Got some Bills news here on a Wednesday as the team rounding out their coaching staff. Ron Curry is the new quarterback coach with more. Chris Trapasso on One Bills Live.
It's probably not many more jobs that are more enticing than being able to be the quarterback coach for Josh Allen. You can just look at what happened with Joe Brady, how quickly of a rise he had. So it's a great springboard for a coach like Ronald Curry. With Josh Allen, he will get an elite quarterback to be able to work with.
Curry, formerly a quarterback at North Carolina. He was last on the Saints staff. We'll go to Las Vegas coming up next. Our friend RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys will join us next year on the Sports Bar. Syracuse basketball tonight hosting Louisville. The Orange have dropped 2 in a row. Sabres had 48 shots on goal last night, yet they only got 1 bye in the loss to Dallas. Next up, it's a home game against St. Louis Saturday afternoon. Gene Battaglia, the Fan Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
We got to start putting up more and more touchdowns as an offense, and knowing that's going to be big playing against the San Fran team is putting up touchdowns instead of field goals and making sure we make their offense feel the pressure that keeps going.
What I love about media day at the Super Bowl, that's Travis Kelce, Chiefs tight end. Like, you're dealing with such a wide audience that you really have to distill it down to, the key for us is just going to be scoring more points than our opponent. That's really what we're going to need to do. We go to Vegas now. One of our buddies down there, RJ Ochoa, is at the Super Bowl. Blogging the Boys, SB Nation. RJ, good to have you on with us. I mean, selfishly, when we saw this name pop up as a potential candidate for defensive coordinator, we knew right away, we got to get RJ's opinion.
Well, actually, it was just fortuitous timing. I reached out to RJ last night saying, hey, he's in Vegas, but I'm like, oh my gosh. Rex Ryan interviewing for the job. RJ, thank you for the time. You're in Vegas. We'll talk about what you've seen in Vegas in the game so far, but Rex Ryan, is that a move you would endorse for the Dallas Cowboys?
It's great to be with you all. Apologies for the background and ambient noise. There's about 2,000 people that refuse to get on all the people for y'all. So they're the jerks, not me. But, Vegas is great, and it's only fitting that the Rex Ryan thing with Grandpa were out here because it's truly that ridiculous in my mind. But what do I know? I'm just a bit kind of fed up with who the Cowboys have been as of late.
RJ, you know what? I think we've got a bad connection. I'm going to try you right back here. So apologize for that.
All right. Gino works to get RJ back on the blower here, and hopefully with a better connection. While RJ floating, you know how it is when you're in Vegas. If you're walking in and out of the casino, sometimes that reception can be a little bit sketchy. So hopefully we can get RJ on a more secure line here and have a conversation about who they have there lined up for defensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys, and just to have them paint a picture of what it's like there this week in Vegas with the Super Bowl coming up here on Sunday afternoon. Happy hour right around the corner as well. And I should also mention that this hour of the Sports Bar is brought to you by the Farmer's Dog. Fresh, human-grade dog food delivered right to your door. And don't forget, with happy hour, a round of shots, and we'll also get to last call, where you're welcome to pull up a stool here in the Sports Bar at 866-4326. Again, 585-866-4FAN. All right, RJ, Blogging the Boys from the Super Bowl. I believe we have a better connection. RJ, we were discussing with you Rex Ryan popping up as a potential candidate to be defensive coordinator for your team, for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, well, it's great to be with you guys. The 2,000 people in here refuse to be quiet at my demand. So, I think that's really what's going on. So apologies. But, yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a rough 4 weeks almost for the Cowboys since the season ended in pretty devastating fashion. And I don't know that Rex Ryan showing up to be the knight in shining armor was the story that any of us envisioned. But I certainly don't feel that way. While Rex is a colorful character and somebody who I'm certain you both have fond memories of, I'd like to pass go and just collect $200 and not have to deal with this storyline anymore. But I doubt that that's going to be the case for the Cowboys.
Yeah, no, I think most people here in Western New York, RJ, and I'm sure there's people that would disagree with me, would say, you know what, good. By the 2 years, it burned out in 2 years. You saw right through it. And, yeah, if Jerry Jones wants headlines, if he wants his team being the lead on SportsCenter, yeah, Rex is your guy, but I would think there's got to be an internal candidate that might be, qualified certainly to take over from Dan Quinn.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people thought that the natural succession plan would have been Joe Wood Jr., but he obviously followed Dan to Washington. It's difficult to say that was a silly move, given that there's a lot more job security there right now. We don't know what's going to happen with Dallas, obviously, a year from now. And I think that it's fair to say or fair to presume that has served as an impediment potentially in this process and finding somebody who's willing to take the job just because you don't know. It's hard to kind of commit to this and, to move. We all who likes that. And just to have to potentially do it again a year from now. And so if I'm being honest, to me, and this is just my own kind of gut feel on this feels a lot like, Max is in TV, the Super Bowl's going on, Jerry wants to make sure the Cowboys are a discussion point. But that's just me trying to read the tea leaves. They could be genuinely interested, which would be a little bit more terrifying, to be honest with you.
All right, well, along the lines of the internal candidates there, Aiden Dirty is the defensive line coach, I want to say, and he's somebody that we know has interviewed with the Cowboys. What kind of a shot do you give him, given all the circumstances that we've kind of laid out here with this position?
Yeah, he's really popular. I don't know if you recall when the Cowboys were on Hard Knocks, what will be 3 years ago this summer. He got a little bit of play. He's international, and so a lot of people, have a lot of fun with his accent. But if I was a betting man, I'd bet against him getting the job. The Cowboys and certainly in the McCarthy have a bit of a type. They want coaches with former head coaching experience. They want leaders of men. In this particular case, they want. It seems like they want a bit of a disciplinarian or somebody who can at least be vocal like a disciplinarian. Mike Zimmer obviously has a bit of a reputation for being kind of a commander-in-chief. And meanwhile, Ron Rivera, who comes straight from the Commanders, seems like he just wants to try to institute his way, his philosophy, which is certainly going to be along those lines as well. And so if I was, like I said, putting any money down on it, I am in Las Vegas after all. I would say that Aiden probably has the longest odds, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, RJ Ochoa, who is in Las Vegas, and we'll talk to you about what you've seen here this week, get your thoughts here on the Super Bowl. But it's funny, RJ, because I see the Bills and the Cowboys fan base is almost being the same. Like, they're throwing our hands up in the air, like, what do we got to do? And the Bills got one step further ahead than Dallas, but still, for Dallas to go out the way they did as a 2 seed. I mean, I'm just going to ask you the loaded question. I mean, what is it going to take for this Cowboy team to get over the hump?
I think that I know I used to compare the Cowboys and the Bills, and I think a lot of people have done that, just kind of how recent history has gone. But to your point, the Bills did get one step further. Now, I think the Bills have a similar sense of dread in that, how do we get past Kansas City specifically, right? They're just kind of the boogeyman for so many teams. Whereas for the Cowboys, it's just kind of their own way. And I think what was particularly devastating about this loss relative to all of the devastating losses that we could kind of spin the wheel and choose from is, you said it, they were the 2 seed. They managed to leapfrog Philadelphia. They were undefeated at home. They got to play, what would have been 2 playoff games had they won, obviously, in the building before potentially traveling for the NFC Championship game. They drew the 7th seed, which, in a literal sense is the weakest possible team that you can play in the playoff field. And so, that they couldn't get it done, it does kind of apply this sense of, if not now, when. If you can't get it done with all these factors working in your favor, what about when some of those deals are fade aren't silent enough? What happens then? Because if you can't do this now, it calls into question everything. And I think that the foundation on which a lot of people kind of sit and stand was really shaken with how things went against Green Bay.
RJ, Gino and I have a gentleman's bet underway that started a couple weeks ago when Bill Belichick was relieved of his duties in New England. I believe that Bill Belichick is done as a head coach in the NFL and that we won't see him on the sidelines as a head coach in the near future. Now, Jerry Jones obviously is complimentary. Bill Belichick and Jerry Jones have a mutual respect. I don't know that Jerry Jones would ever offer Bill Belichick the kind of control that he had while he was in New England. In your opinion, how real is that for you looking ahead to the crystal ball here? If it does go poorly for Mike McCarthy here in the last year of his contract, do you see Bill Belichick as a viable option for the Dallas Cowboys in 2025?
At this point, it's really difficult to say no. I mean, just because it feels like everything would be on the table as an option. And I don't know, the inner workings of Ben Johnson's mind, but it does seem, at least to me, like everyone who was a top candidate, top premier candidate, might be looking at the state of the NFL and looking at towards 2025, because to your point, Dallas could have an availability. Philadelphia could have an availability. If things go particularly south, I mean, you guys would know better than me, maybe Buffalo could have an availability. You can marry yourself to a franchise quarterback in any one of those circumstances that might not necessarily have been the case with this year's cycle. And so it makes sense in that particular sense to me that Belichick, Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson or whoever it might be waiting for better opportunities and greener pastures. And I think if the Cowboys do ultimately wind up in that situation, it's hard to discount anybody. It's hard to say that anything is beneath them. I mean, who are they to judge at this point in time? Maybe flirting or approaching the drought, actually hitting their years at that point in time.
All right, so the bandwidth we're going to fight through here with RJ because you sound good and then it's kind of ducking in and out, but we appreciate you hanging with us here.
Stand on one leg for the rest of the conversation, please, RJ.
RJ Ochoa, blogging the boys in Las Vegas. Just set a scene for us who have never been to Radio Row or even been to a Super Bowl. What has been your experience like this week here, RJ?
Well, I'll say first and foremost, the cell reception sucks, if that isn't obvious. It's starting to fill out. The thing, it does kind of progress as the week goes along. More people are getting into town, more athletes and personalities and people to interview. I co-host a show in San Antonio that airs from 6 to 10 Central, which is just the worst thing in the world here in the Pacific time zone. So when I get here at 2:30 in the morning, it's pretty quiet. But it's getting fuller and fuller every day. The national shows have arrived as well. And so it's pandemonium, it's chaos, it's organized, which is, what's interesting about the whole thing. I know it sounds cliche and lame and cheesy, but you really can feel the buzz. It's the Super Bowl. It's the biggest, sporting event that our country has to offer. I would say that most countries have to offer. And, it's a good time. It's interesting here in Las Vegas. Never been done before, obviously. And so kind of seeing how things unfold in the cold. I know that I'm garnering no sympathy from you all on that front, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm excited to see how the week continues to unfold.
All right, which direction are you leaning for the actual game on Sunday, RJ?
I hate to tell y'all, but I did pick Buffalo to win, and then I picked Baltimore to win, and so I've burned my hand too many times on this stove. It's deflating to say that, Patrick Mahomes is simply that inevitable. So I'm going to take the Chiefs and ride that until the wheels come off or until I have a reason not to, unfortunately.
Yeah, RJ, from where you sit, I'll just ask you, what is your opinion on Buffalo? Because, yes, for decades, we could not get past the Patriots. And the Patriots, but you realize, like, the Bills, talent-wise, were not at the same level. I would make the argument that the Bills really aren't that far off talent-wise, but yet they can't get past, as you say, the boogeyman. What is it going to take, in your opinion, for Buffalo to finally, get through here in the AFC?
I think something that I'm starting to reckon with more is that sometimes, the better team, even the significantly better team, loses. And I think that happened in the AFC Championship game. I think that happened in the divisional round. And sometimes even the better team or significantly better team can have Lady Luck smile upon them and still lose. I mean, I thought the moment the fumble through the end zone happened, as I'm sure you've lamented, I thought it was over. I mean, how could it have not been over? Sometimes sports are just that cruel. And that's, why we care so much. I think Buffalo is in a spot similar to Dallas, as we've all kind of noted, where it's a tired expression, but you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is one of the best teams in the NFL. It's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And odds generally are that if you knock into the door, at some point, Lady Luck will finally smile upon you in the entire way.
RJ, it's a treat having you on with us, man. Next time, let's get a hard line connection, and we appreciate you taking time out of your time there in Vegas. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week and the game on Sunday, bud.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a great week as well.
You got
Thanks,
it.
RJ.
You can check out RJ Ochoa. He's blogging the boys, SB Nation, covering the Dallas Cowboys. Nice to have him on here to talk a little bit about Rex Ryan reportedly interviewing for the open defensive coordinator position.
Yeah, and like RJ said, his morning shift there in a empty Radio Row there. It's
Maggie and Perloff are dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
And you're talking to an East Coast audience when you're on the West Coast time zone, and there's nobody up in Vegas when they're doing their show, yet they're doing it. And hey, it all sounds good and it's all exciting, and there's definitely a buzz and a vibe. You can tell when you talk to the people that are in Vegas, whether it's PJ who joined us last hour or RJ right there. Yeah, there's a lot going on. Wish we had a better reception with RJ, but that was RJ, and it was great having him on with us here.
I didn't know the rotation here. So it's in New Orleans next year. It seems like it's been a while. It's been a minute since they've been in New Orleans. But then we go back to the West Coast for 2 more years. Levi's Stadium, SoFi Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
SoFi is going to have it like once every 4 years, you figure.
And New Orleans isn't bad. I mean, like, New Orleans is actually a city that is built for this event. Like, it is built to host a Super Bowl. It's not my favorite city. It wouldn't be my favorite destination, but for the Super Bowl and everything that entails, yeah, it's a pretty good It's a pretty good destination. It's not Vegas. I think Vegas is going to, when it's said and done, will eclipse New Orleans as like the league's favorite destination, because it was always New Orleans, right? It felt like New Orleans was always hosting.
So we're going to, now that everybody's been handed out a Super Bowl that needs to, right? Like, oh, you built the stadium. Yay, here you get your one Super Bowl.
We're not getting a Super Bowl.
No, you would never get one. But my question is, do you have like a rotation every 4 years? You're going to Vegas. Every 4 years, you're going to L.A.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 are up for grabs here.
Yeah, I think so. I think SoFi is an unbelievable world-class venue, and so they'll constantly be in the mix. I think Allegiant Stadium is a great venue, and Vegas offers what it offers.
I know Miami just had the renovation, but doesn't the Dolphin Stadium feel like it's fallen behind here when you compare the...
Yeah, I mean, I have that's a little too close for me. Having gone to that stadium to watch my team lose in the Super Bowl
in the rain,
it was. I would prefer never to talk about a Super Bowl in Miami ever again. We can move on.
See, like, I'm thinking places like Tampa. Will Tampa ever get another one?
Yeah, I think they probably will.
Dallas for sure.
Yeah.
Arthur Blank will get a
Dallas.
Super Bowl.
Dallas hasn't had one though in a long time.
Right.
And I think part of that was, look, the NFL, not unlike the PGA. We were here when the PGA was here.
The weather was terrible.
The weather was bad in Dallas for Super Bowl for that Super Bowl week. And forget about Minnesota. Like, you don't ever want to go back to Minnesota in the month of February. So I think the weather does play a factor, and just to hear RJ say it's cold in Vegas, like, what is that cold? Is it 50 degrees, 60 degrees? That's for most of the country, we would take that.
So another city too, where you say it's built for it. It's been a few years since they've been in Indy too.
Yeah, I think they can satiate Indy by just saying, yeah, we'll keep the combine here for another couple of years. You go ahead and host your Final Fours. We'll take the Super Bowl elsewhere. Hey, speaking of L.A., this has become official, and names also of coaching staffs from the Bills gone by. Greg Roman, officially the Chargers offensive coordinator, reuniting with Jim Harbaugh. They worked together in San Francisco all those years ago with Kaepernick, and now will Greg Roman break Justin Herbert? That'll be an interesting one to watch.
Look, maybe this doesn't work. Maybe Harbaugh,
doesn't work. They're going to win not one, not two, multiple championships. They're calling their shot.
Why has nobody drawn the analogy to Terry Pegula for saying something like that? We kill him with what he said about the Sabres.
Oh, I think we'll hold them accountable to those words. We're going to win multiple championships. Hey, I mean, it's one thing to say that's our goal. Our goal is to win multiple championships. If If you fall short of that, though, you have to be ready to and prepared to back yourself up. Greg Roman getting a job. Rex Ryan interviewing for a job. And you know what? If Rex were to get that, anybody that gets that job, it's actually, Rex would be perfect because he would still have broadcasting as a fallback. He's been on ESPN this entire time.
You don't have to, if it's not a money issue, can we just identify that? Because Rex would just do it.
Yeah.
He would just do it.
No question. And if it all ends after one season, if it all explodes and everybody's gone, Rex would just go back to ESPN and be fine.
But then if Rex really wanted one more kick at the can, and now finally the Cowboys get over the hump, and I'm like all of a sudden the media star here.
Yeah.
Like Rex then someday ascends to be the head coach.
Yeah. You know what? Worst spots to land when you have one of the best players on the defensive side of the ball in the entire league at your disposal. I think Rex would do okay with Micah Parsons at his disposal. Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break and come back. We got happy hour on the way next. We got a round of shots. We've got last call and time for your phone calls at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. Hasn't been made official by the team yet, but the Bills appear to have their new quarterbacks coach.
It was, and yep.
Oh, it has been made official.
Yeah, and they hired 2 other coaches.
Okay, so we'll break that down here with happy hour next. 866-4FAN, our number, 866-4326.
97 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports Update.
Some hirings today for the Buffalo Bills. Ron Curry is the new quarterback coach. Chris Trapasso offering more.
It's probably not many more jobs that are more enticing than being able to be the quarterback coach for Josh Allen. You can just look at what happened with Joe Brady, how quickly of a rise he had. So it's a great springboard for a coach like Ronald Curry. With Josh Allen, he will get an elite quarterback to be able to work with.
Christian Taylor is the new defensive quality control coach. He comes from William & Mary. Jamil Adai, formerly University of Miami, he's the new corner coach. ESPN's Elena Getzenberg reporting that John Butler, the defensive backs coach, and the team mutually parting ways. Syracuse basketball tonight hosting Louisville. Sabres had 48 shots on goal, yet they only scored once. Next up, it's a home game against St. Louis Saturday afternoon. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The Bills, they're working to hire Ron Curry as the quarterback coach / passing game coordinator. They have to replenish this roster.
Mike Danger.
I'm Danger.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
I'm the sarcastic one. Gene is the credible, mostly serious guy who's the hardcore sports man. I'm just joking around. It's not that serious to me.
Gene Battaglia.
Live Club Chino. Yeah.
He's got the strobe light going.
On EPX Live.
DJ Eugene Lover.
People would tune in from our show just to hear me spinning the tunes.
A 2-1 loss to the Dallas Stars.
Ottinger won that game for him. 48 shots the Sabres threw at Ottinger. He was unbelievable.
More consistently inconsistent.
Amerks Hockey. Guess how many games they have? 9 games.
9 games.
9 times.
Yeah.
In 16 days.
She's just 16 years old.
My focus is on Syracuse.
Crunch.
Tiger Woods. Tiger is back.
All-star guard Jalen Brunson twisted his right ankle last night, did not finish. Popcorn is overrated.
All right. You ever notice you do that? All right.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It's happy hour. Welcome back into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, Rochester's only local sports talk show. We appreciate you making us part of your routine. If you're driving home and listening locally at 95.7 FM or AM 950, keep in mind we sound our best in the free to download Odyssey app, your smart device, and you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And hey, if you're not driving around, we encourage you to check out our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, where we are streaming live, also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment while you're there. We appreciate a little wind in the sails. I am Mike Danger, and that is Gene Battaglia.
A little bit of a surprise this afternoon. John Butler, the mutual parting of ways, which either that says, hey, I want out, or you're fired, but whatever the case may be. I don't think any of us looked at the Bills secondary and said, oh, that's kind of a weakness here for the team.
I can point to one thing. Elam. Kyer Elam. If you weren't able to get through to Kyer Elam, who you invested a first-round draft pick in, that's your gig, that's your job.
Yeah.
And, look, Elam was big, eye wink here, injured for a lot of the season. That's the thing that we're going to hear next summer when, later this summer when they talk about, Elam's development and what we can expect out of Elam here this upcoming season. The injury is going to be a big excuse, right?
Right. If he was injured week 1, why was he not on said injured
Correct.
report?
And
right.
If everything was hunky-dory with Elam and it's really just about him, why are you moving on and getting a different coach to come in to coach your corners, to coach your defensive backs? Well, you got a new coach for Kyer Elam and for the rest of the defensive backfield. We'll see what this guy's all about. Butler's out.
Yeah, we'll see. He'll end up with a job. They all do here. I think it's just kind of amusing that, hey, we need a new defensive quality control coach because, well, we just needed somebody quality control.
Yeah.
Did they bring in somebody? No, they brought in somebody wet behind the ears, straight from the coaching staff of William & Mary.
What? No. Are you serious?
Christian Taylor.
All right. Well, look, at the end of the day, how significant is that role? This is a favor, right? This is, hey, you can do this better than an intern who really, really wants to be a part of a coaching staff.
No, I see I see me. I see a young me when I was in Philadelphia. I was the defensive quality control coach. And what did you do there, Sean? I
learned from Andy Reid.
I took, like, my favorite story was that Andy Reid's car broke down and Sean had to go get him. Like, literally, he was running errands for the head coach.
So you're at least you got a guy here, if you're McDermott, that you see yourself in. Look, we don't know, but like, you just look at the resume and you're like, okay, if you see yourself in this guy, then he'll be in your favor. And if he does elevate through the ranks, and you've got to continue to feed the beast, you got to continue to, stock up some guys on the coaching staff, just like you do with players, see what he's made of, and know that at minimum, well, he's got some of my DNA. He's got that William and Mary background. Do we know if he wrestled? Did he wrestle? He had to have wrestled. Imagine he probably wrestled.
Christian, if his name was Christian McWrestler, I think it's Christian Taylor. So.
Taylor? Yeah. Is his middle name complimentary? Well, yeah, okay. So that move is worth noting, but it's probably not a big deal.
It's the guy that doesn't have a McDermott connection that I think is interesting. Ron Curry is the new quarterback coach who doesn't have a connection to McDermott, doesn't have a connection to Josh Allen. Connection here being to your new offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, as the two worked together when Curry was with the Saints and Brady was with the Saints for a couple of years. Curry, same position down in New Orleans, interviewed for the offensive coordinator position, didn't get it with the Saints, and now, with the Saints blessing, takes this lateral move, but I don't view it as a lateral move because where are you going here with Carr in New Orleans? That you can actually kind of advance your career with Josh Allen, see Joe Brady here. So for Ron Curry, I'm just curious to learn a little bit more about him. He was an accomplished college athlete, playing quarterback at North Carolina, also playing some key minutes there for North Carolina basketball, one of those rare two-way players in college.
Drafted by the Raiders, 7th round of the 2002 NFL draft. 8 seasons in the NFL with Oakland, the Lions, and St. Louis, the Rams, back then. So that tells you how long ago Curry was a player in the league. But you mentioned some of his resume there, most recently with the New Orleans Saints. Curry's getting a shot, and it's a shot that I think a lot of people would line up for. At minimum, Josh Allen is your quarterback, right? Like, you go as he goes, and Curry will be tasked with, and hopefully, can get this through to Josh Allen along with Brady and everybody else. Make the right decision, kid. Make the right decision. You got to see it. You got to see it before you throw it. Make the right decision. It's the same thing we were saying last offseason. It'll be the same thing we say this offseason. There's nobody questioning Josh Allen's ability. There's nobody questioning his athleticism, his arm strength, his talent. I'm questioning his decisions again, and that'll be a task for Curry.
What I like about this too, this is not a peer. He's 44. So Josh in his 20s.
I wonder. We know that Allen endorsed Dorsey as the OC because Dorsey was his quarterback's coach. We know that he endorsed Brady to move up when Dorsey was let go because he's the quarterback's coach. Do you think Allen was involved in this process? Do you think Allen had a say, or is this Joe Brady saying, you know what, I'm going to bring in my guy, and Allen will love him. I guarantee you're going to love this guy. He played quarterback. You're going to love him.
I think it's the latter. I mean, honestly, think about the timing here. Josh Allen isn't hanging around. He's playing golf out in Pebble Beach.
Right.
I'm sure he's not sitting with candidates talking about who's going to be my coach.
Yeah, maybe a Zoom. Maybe you get a Zoom with Josh Allen. I would hope that they were asking him for, or maybe they're beyond that. Maybe it's just maybe this is a new Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane saying, we asked the kid what he wanted for a replacement for Dayball, and look at how that turned out. Maybe we need to be the adults, and we need to be the ones to say, here's your coach, kid.
Wow.
This is what you need.
It's not. It's also Brady, though. It's the Brady hire. If there's the connection there, so this is somebody that Brady's foxhole. Brady doesn't want to be the next Ken Dorsey here. Oh, it can't be. Are you kidding me? Sure he could be. If this is if you take steps backward, well, you need the best talent around you. So with that, I put my trust in Joe Brady here.
And you got to also remember, the turnover for offensive coordinators in this league is ridiculous right now. I mean, if you can't get it done, you're gone.
as crazy as it sounds, you could be 2 years away from a head coaching position. If I'm Ron Curry and things all of a sudden break right here and I could be a coordinator somewhere else, a quarterback coaches get interviewed sometimes.
Yeah, or Brady, if he has a great season and the Bills offensively do what we think they can do. And
he's a head coach somewhere. He is bright and young, and
he fits the profile, right?
Yeah.
So if he fits the profile, he elevates. It's a great move for a guy like Curry, who hasn't been a defensive coordinator in this league, but maybe could, or I'm sorry, an offensive coordinator in this league, but maybe could elevate to OC within the next couple of years here with the Buffalo Bills. Great job. And hard one to pass up if you're Curry, especially knowing that you didn't get the job that you interviewed for in New Orleans. So we got a few new names to the Bills coaching staff today as it rounds out. One of the guys that we thought would be out hasn't been announced. I mean, Matthew Smiley is, it looks like, going to remain as a special teams coach, even though the Bills' special teams took a sharp decline in 2023.
Great. So happy about that. Well, if Smiley is back, that leads me to think, all right, with a team that is going to need young, affordable, you cannot afford luxuries like special team only guys, especially when the special teams aren't getting it done. So I think Saran Neal's time is up in Buffalo. I think Tyler Matakavich's time is up in Buffalo. You can find cheaper talent to replace those guys, and it's going to be up to Smiley now to kind of assimilate.
I was looking over the list of free agents here, and it's curious. You mentioned Matakavich; he's a free agent, and now 31 years old. So I would agree that you could probably freshen up there a little bit when you're talking about special teams. I'm wondering which one of these guys, or how many of these guys do come back that you could look at them and say, like, hey, your best option moving forward is still the Buffalo Bills. Even though you're a free agent, you can go test the market, but I think what you're going to find is that you're going to be back here at the rate that we set. And I'm looking like at a guy like Dotson. I think a guy like Dane Jackson, guys that are now so familiar with this defense, so familiar with this team, this culture, this coaching staff, that when they do go out there and test the market and realize, like, my best opportunity remains in Buffalo.
Okay, so Dotson is interesting because he came on at the end of the year, and I think he exceeded expectations. Is that fair to say? Okay. Well, it's not his job next year. Matt Milano, he was holding Matt Milano's place. Milano, you assume, is going to be healthy, is ready to take over. If Dotson wants to start in this league, well, is there a team that's going to give him starter money?
I don't think so. I don't know that he's a starter in the NFL, and I don't know that a team would take that leap and invest in Dotson. I think it's more realistic that a guy like Dotson maybe assumes the role that you had Taylor Matakavich on special teams, and then you've got somebody that's serviceable that can play linebacker in a pinch if something were to happen to Milano, if something were to happen to Bernard. But his familiarity with the defense makes me believe, like, that guy will be back. It'll just be whatever the Bills will set the price, and Dotson will be one of the free agents that comes back. And I think Rapp is probably one of those guys as well, that when you look around and you really realize, like, where's your best chance to win? Where's your best chance to learn and grow, the best opportunity? And the good news with a guy like Dotson, a guy like Rapp, we're talking about guys that are in their mid-20s. These guys aren't guys that are over the hill or on the wrong side of 30. So, you have the ability to remain young, remain athletic defensively, and on special teams. So I like both of those guys. The guy that I wonder about is Epineza, and I think Epineza's probably gone. I think he's going somewhere else.
And also, too, if the money is equal or if it's just a little greater, there are two destinations, two teams that are in the NFC that have money, that have names we all know. And I'm looking at Seattle with Leslie Frazier. When we talked to Matt Perino yesterday, he brought up, because we think Micah Hyde, okay, if he's going to retire, I think most of us are at peace thinking, okay, Micah Hyde not going to be on this team. But Perino brought up an interesting point. He's like, I could see Hyde going to Seattle just to kind of helping Frazier establish a culture.
Yeah, I don't know how much help they need in their secondary. They've got a pretty talented secondary. They've got some big names there in Adams and in Witherspoon, the kid from Illinois that they drafted last year. But maybe Hyde is more than that in the locker room. I also wouldn't rule out. I mean, look, Hyde sure feels like he's kind of a coach type. At some point, Micah Hyde being a coach in the NFL. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case this year.
If there's one guy, though, that you would be like, it rarely does it happen. Ham retired. Okay, now you're on the same coaching staff. I think Hyde could do that with this team. I just get the sense that he has that ability where that's tough when you go from, hey, I'm your teammate, I'm your friend, and now I'm your coach. Like, no, I think Hyde would be able to walk that perfectly. The other coach I was going to bring up, and you could speak more to this than me because you know more about Chicago Bear football, but they have a new defensive coordinator in Washington, the former Bills defensive line coach. When you're mentioning an A.J. Epineza, or you have Daquan Jones, because Washington could say, hey, look at the success I had here going to his GM. Can we spend money on one of these Buffalo Bills defenders?
I guess it depends on what they value as well. Like Jones is nice. We all know what Daquan Jones brings to the table. He's also 32 years old. And so the Bears do have the kind of cap space that they can make Jones a pretty lucrative deal in free agency. Tim Settle, somebody that we don't feel is like a sexy name to plug in there at defensive tackle, but he is still young at 26 years old. Settle could be somebody that Washington maybe brings with him. And then the other guys are veteran guys, whether you're talking about Poona Ford or Jordan Phillips.
Shaq Lawson,
Epineza. Epineza is the interesting one. And Epineza in Seattle would make a lot of sense if Leslie Frazier is a believer in A.J. Epineza. And they're willing to give him the kind of money that Epineza could fetch. I mean, it wasn't a spectacular season for A.J. Epineza. I mean, it wasn't a spectacular season for anybody on the defensive line when you consider how it ended. I mean, you could say it was the best season of Ed Oliver's career. I would listen to that. You could say that Leonard Floyd had a nice season, and I would listen to that as well. But did any of these guys really have, like, the kind of season that your eyes pop out of your head? I think Taron Johnson was the only guy that was selected second-team All-Pro.
Yeah, and part of that may be just because that's the way they want it. Like, you were going to rotate all 8 guys, and you're not going to have a guy piling up stats where they have the monster game. We saw more splash plays from Epineza this year that,
for sure.
All right, the Washington game comes to mind. Like, if you roll the tape on that, and in a league where you're always looking for somebody, it would not surprise me, Danger, if I had to predict. I don't think any of them are back. I think, honestly, when we say wide receiver train, shoot, the Bills are going to have some issues here on that defensive line. I'm hoping you bring up a good point with Daquan Jones and the age and then the injuries, and maybe that is the guy that drives the market down, because if you bring back a defensive line with Rousseau on one side and then you have Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones in the middle, and then I don't know, I guess you're still stuck with Von Miller on the other side. That's at least a good starting point.
Yeah, you're stuck with Von Miller. It sounds weird saying that, but you're stuck with him.
Well, you're stuck with him, yeah.
And you're going to need him, at least right now. That's a guy that you're going to need to play up to the level of what he's making, which is impossible. It's just not going to happen. We're not going to see the Von Miller that we all grew up seeing. The Hall of Famer Von Miller is not what Buffalo has right now. Maybe that changes. Maybe you get a game or two early next season, but you have to go back to that well. And I think in the draft, you're probably looking at somebody in the early rounds that you're going to groom to be your next defensive end. Free agency will tell a little bit of that tale as well. But we know that they can't be big spenders, and most of those defensive ends command a pretty hefty dollar. So there you go. Some Buffalo Bills updates for you today as they make some adjustments to their coaching staff. They bring in some new names, and we begin to kind of look ahead and fast forward to what the offseason could look like for the Buffalo Bills. Great conversation today with RJ Ochoa from Las Vegas, blogging the boys. Also PJ Glasser from BetQL's Send It In, getting these guys and their takes on the big game on Sunday. RJ likes the Chiefs. PJ is on the Niners. I think the sharp money is coming in on the Niners, and PJ is a part of that crowd.
Yeah, it's telling, because when we talk to everybody, I'm sure you're talking to your friends, you're not going to bet against Mahomes. Why would you ever do that? That'd be like Brady, betting against Brady. And okay, that's fair. Valid criticism. I'm saying the same thing. Then why hasn't the line moved? Why hasn't the line moved? Shouldn't this be a pick'em game by this point if everybody's going in on Kansas City? I think, and this is the more I think about this game, the Niners' ability to run the football. As, yes, of course, the Chiefs want to make Brock Purdy make mistakes. However, the Bills nearly pulled it off with that formula. They should have pulled it off. Honestly, that was the idea. James Cook running the football. It got you to where it put you in a position to perhaps win the game. They didn't. Baltimore, I don't know what the heck they were doing. What was horrible game plan.
Yeah. Just malpractice of a game plan. That was terrible by Todd Monken. Yeah, I'm with you, and I haven't decided yet which direction I'm going to lean as far as where I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'll hear the I don't want to bet against Mahomes crowd. And Trista is somebody we value, and we had her on Friday. She's like, look, I can't bet against Patrick Mahomes. I'm taking the Chiefs +7. She believes that the Chiefs
teased it up, yeah.
Yeah. I think that I think PJ might be onto something.
Yeah. I mean, we'll make our final picks on Friday. The one thing I do like what he brought up, what the rushing yards on Debo over under 13.5.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me there's going to be a game plan that doesn't involve Debo Samuel running the football? That's it?
Yeah, Chiefs defense is good, but can you bring down Debo Samuel around that edge? That's a good question. When are we going to unveil our bold predictions from this season? Are we doing that next week after the Super Bowl is over?
I think so, next week. As you like to say, I'm on assignment tomorrow. When really on the station, I'll be checking in at 5 o'clock. This is the last.
It's a station assignment.
Yeah, station assignment. Fisher basketball tomorrow, so that'll be tomorrow, and then Friday. Yeah, we'll be doing Super Bowl. So I think coming out of the Super Bowl, because by that point, I think you and I have been pushing it off because some of these predictions we were wildly accurate.
Well, that's what makes it fun. It's the guy that makes the prediction before the season that says, you know who's going to be good this year? The Washington Commanders. They're going to make a run. We want the bolder, the better. And then we can look back, point, and laugh. And we'll do some of that probably early next week when we have the Super Bowl in our rear view mirror. We can go back and revisit the preseason bold predictions that we made. And by the way, you're getting a lot of off-season bold predictions now by all the analysts and talking heads. What's going to happen? Who's going to go where? What team is Russell Wilson going to play for next year? Where will Justin Fields land? Who's going to get the number 1 overall pick if Chicago deals? I like all of the bold off-season predictions as well.
Well, so this is the schedule, folks. So Super Bowl, and then we get to President's Day week. And then it's Combine week.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL's, what is it's a 2-week off season? That's it? That's it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's fantastic. And really, there's no off season because you're trying to figure out, all right, what do we do with the cap? You're talking to agents.
We got to get a cap number here at some point after the Super Bowl too, right?
Yeah, you got to know what you're working with.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you got to give them a little bit of time to know what they're working with before free agency. Looking forward to that as well. Yeah, the NFL calendar is a rigorous one. Doesn't really take a lot of time off. So that week, that President's Week, is really the 1 week where there probably isn't going to be much going on around the NFL. Good week to take time off. I'm not taking that week. We'll take that Monday off, but we're not off that entire week.
No,
we'll be back.
No, we're back.
Tomorrow on the show, Gino, as you mentioned, where does St. John Fisher take you tomorrow?
I am at Houghton College, the Houghton Highlanders?
Prestige.
Yeah.
Gene will have the call for you tomorrow afternoon at 5:30. St. John Fisher basketball here on the Fan. Ryan Duffy from the Let's Go Duffalo podcast, as we've dubbed him now, the more talented of the two Duffy brothers, joining us in the sports bar. And we'll talk to Dante Whitner, former Buffalo Bill, current NBC Sports Bay Area and CBS Sports analyst.
Who is outstanding. I'm bummed I'm going to miss that tomorrow. Dante Whitner, some smart network needs to put him on nationally, because when you listen to him break down things and everything, and sure, he's a former Niner. I'm going to guess he's going to pick the Niners, but he's going to explain it in a different way.
The Hitman tomorrow at 3:25. Remember when he did that when he changed his name, took
Hittner.
the W? Yeah, he wanted to be Dante Hittner.
He legally changed his name to Hittner. Like we talk about Ocho Cinco.
It is the best. He'll be joining us tomorrow afternoon at 3:25, and Gino will be stopping by for happy hour tomorrow in the sports bar as well.
I'm looking at BetQL right now. PJ Glasser joined us earlier, and they're tweeting this out right now. Pick of the night: Louisville plus 333 on the money line to take down the Orange.
Sure.
Now, we can't bet on that in New York State, but the point being here that Louisville, if you haven't paid attention, to college basketball, that's okay. Like, it's football season. Louisville's an embarrassment. They were last year one of the worst teams in the nation. This year, 7-15 and overall, not good. But the idea that the Benny Williams cut will have a carryover for the Orange, and then you kind of throw in it's Wednesday night, a lot of tickets, dome being half empty. Yeah, it's a sleepy. Okay, Mr. Optimist. It's a recipe where the Orange could get tripped up here. I want to see if PJ's right on this. I love that pick.
Yeah. You can reach out to us on X at the Fan Rochester. That's Elon's Twitter. One of our regulars who's been banned from the show pointing out that Ron Curry, Bills quarterbacks coach, was a teammate of Julius Peppers, both college football and basketball. Imagine going down the lane with Peppers meeting you at the hoop. Curry, your new quarterbacks coach for the Buffalo Bills. That's a terrifying thought. Julius Peppers was a bad, bad man in the NFL for a long time.
He's one of those guys I don't think we appreciate. We don't appreciate LeBron James enough, certainly.
He's
but
top of the list, of
course.
course.
Julius Peppers is one of those names like, oh, yeah, he was really good.
He was really, really good as a pass rusher in this league for a long time. Maybe there's a connection there. Was Peppers, did Peppers and McDermott cross paths in Carolina, or was Peppers long gone by then? Peppers would have been gone by then.
He would have been gone by then.
Yeah, he would have been in Chicago. I think he ended up in Green Bay. Nice career for Peppers. Really, really good pass rusher. And former teammate of Carolina with Ron Curry. Interesting note. You're still banned. Don't bother.
Peter, don't listen to Danger.
You don't even mention his name. How dare you? He's banned.
Actually, this is, all right, we'll work this out here on the air. Do we allow Binkley through on Friday? Because he's going to infuriate us. He's just going to basically take a dump on all Bills fans.
He's become the sports bar villain.
But part of me wants to think you bring him in and he gets humbled on Monday.
Yes.
Or he's doing a Deion Sanders, putting the hand behind his head and high stepping.
Fellas, let me tell you. Let me tell you, the Chiefs are being disrespected. They like the underdog role. How can you bet against Patrick Mahomes? Look at what they did, and this defense is unbelievable.
Thank you, Buffalo.
All right, so we just did it. That's what I don't know that we need to.
Okay, there's none, yeah.
But I'm going to leave the door open, just a crack there, and if Binkley does come in on Friday, understand our motives here. It's not to piss you off, the listener, when you hear a guy from Kansas City gloating about how great his team is. We're bringing him in with the hope that the Niners are humbled, that the Chiefs are humbled at the hands of the Niners, and that we can have Binkley on to do an about face come Monday. But that would then require a double dose of Jay Binkley, which I don't know if I'm ready for that either, Gino.
No, I'm going to put my foot down on a double dose there.
All right, Gino, catch your breath over there. But poor Gino's been battling for weeks.
Getting choked up.
Yeah.
Here.
Let's get to a round of shots.
Oh, you're going to read all the feedback on my Mike Danger impression here?
I didn't see anything about that.
Chris writing in, Gene trying to convince me that a cross between Casey Kasem and Wolfman Jack. Is that what Mike Danger sounds like?
Your cough is your karma for trying to.
Gene's impression of Danger sounds like Roz from Monsters, Inc.
Oh no, that's Gary Bettman.
That's Gary Bettman.
Yeah, Gary Bettman is Roz from Monsters, Inc. Nashville, you have been.
Nashville, you have been awesome.
That's Roz.
Music City is clearly a hockey city.
File your paperwork.
Congratulating your Predators and the Penguins on a great Stanley Cup final.
Nashville holds the crown. That's still the best booing of a commissioner I think we've ever heard.
That has not burned out whatsoever. Every time I hear that, I'm like, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
If you're like, what are you talking? Why would Gene do an impression of Danger? Quickly. This story that Fox, TBS, ESPN are creating this bundle for a sports-only streaming service, and we're like, oh, that's going to be great. It's going to save us money. Probably won't save you money. And then now it kind of leads us to the point of, man, maybe we did have it better when we had cable. And knowing that Mike Danger does the endorsements on the show.
You do endorsements on the show. Don't sell yourself short, pal.
I'm Mike Danger for cable. Are you sick of having 5 streaming services? Cable can put it all under one roof.
I'm Gene Battaglia for DirecTV. And if you're a serious sports fan like I am, you will subscribe to DirecTV. Put that dish on your house and save some money. It's the American way. So if I'm Casey Kasem, you're Sam the Eagle from The Muppet Show. Can we move on? It's time for a round of shots.
Round of shots is I cannot breathe here in the sports bar. I don't know if
then you can't do an endorsement, pal.
No, boy, 48 shots on goal. Notice we haven't talked a lot of Sabre hockey today. Nope.
Don't want to.
Nope. We'll get to college basketball here as well. The Knicks get a little bit of a scare there with Jalen Brunson. We'll give you an update on that. We got a golf update, and also, this story there. Could you imagine being in a sporting event and getting arrested live on the air? This actually happened.
I can imagine it happening in an awards show. We saw a rap star win a Grammy and then get arrested a few moments later. That happened on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll get to that and more. A round of shots. And don't forget, last call is coming up as well. You can pull up a stool at 585-866-4FAN when we utter the most dangerous words in all of sports talk. We go to the phones. 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Sports Update.
Hirings today on the Buffalo Bills staff. First off, a quarterback coach. His name is Ron Curry. Steve Tasker today on the move.
He's been in New Orleans coaching their wide receivers, quarterbacks, and been their passing game coordinator for the last 7 seasons. He was under Sean Payton. He's been under Dennis Allen. He's also worked in the past with Jim Harbaugh.
And there's one other big connection here that he worked with Joe Brady in New Orleans.
Curry, a former quarterback himself at North Carolina, was a Raiders 7th-round draft pick. The Bills also hiring Jameer Adai to coach the corners as John Butler and the team mutually parting ways. Christian Taylor is the new defensive quality control coach. Taylor formerly at William & Mary College. Syracuse basketball tonight hosting Louisville. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Epic victories, heartbreaking defeats. No matter your team, no matter your game, we talk sports. The Fan, Rochester.
Happy Hour continues in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us. Appreciate you listening along in the free-to-download Odyssey app or watching along on our YouTube or Twitch feed at The Fan Rochester. Time for a round of shots, Gino.
Do you remember like when the Sabres wore their black throwbacks? Everybody would say...
I have a take.
Yeah.
Pick one. All right?
Yeah.
Pick one at this point because it's not special anymore. It was a thing where, hey, they never lose when they wear their black. Pick one. Okay, if you like the black so much, then go with the black jerseys moving forward. Make that your team. You go back to it. Make your throwbacks permanent or shelve them so that when you do bring them out, it's actually special and it makes us feel something again. Because we're all dead inside. I can't stand the sight of them anymore, Gino.
Well, maybe last night because, harkens back to the Stanley Cup final when the Sabres actually, not only did they make the playoffs back then, Danger, they made it to the final. They lost to Dallas. And last night they lost to Dallas. 48 shots on goal. Tage Thompson got 1, and that was it. The Sabres were looking for their first 3-game winning streak of the season, but now they have to hit the reset button again. Buffalo 10 points out of the final playoff spot in the East. St. Louis coming to town on Saturday.
Yeah, look, everybody's going to say, Ottinger was great. 48 saves. Ottinger was great. It's like, yeah, Ottinger was great. He didn't have anybody in front of him. He could see everything. And when you're getting pucks to the net, you're right in his gut. Like, what are we doing, guys? And Darlene, man, he was frustrated last night on the ice, showing some of that frustration. How much of that rubs off? You're team captain. How much of that is rubbing off? How much are these guys pressing? They're just pressing, man.
Gripping the stick, as they say.
Yes, sir.
Too tightly. Clemson's men's basketball, the record at Chapel Hill all time, 2-60. Win number 2 coming last night, upsetting the third-ranked team in the country, North Carolina. Clemson, one of those teams that's farting around in the ACC. They've got a 5-6 conference record. Speaking of farting around tonight, Syracuse looks to bounce back after a couple of losses as they take a Louisville team that's really down in the dumps here. Tickets on the secondary market tonight, just $6. It's 7 o'clock in the ACC now.
All right, so PJ joined us earlier. No, we can't bet this game because it's Syracuse in New York State. Legally, we can't bet this game. PJ's suggestion, Louisville +8. Take Louisville in the points. What kind of Syracuse reaction do you have from Benny Williams being released from the team?
Well, either they paced Louisville tonight or, like PJ said, this is like going to continue, and this is what makes sports great. Like, I could see this going either way tonight. Dante DiVincenzo has played with Jalen Brunson so long in the locker room afterward. He simply went up to him and said, "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm good." And that's all you need to know. No, Knicks fans don't need to worry. Brunson rolling his ankle with 5 minutes to go in the Knicks win over Memphis. Brunson immediately leaving the game, went back to the locker room. He didn't return. The Grizzlies, though, eventually got back into it, cutting the deficit down to 4 before the Knicks hung on. Brunson this year averaging 27 points a game. He will face his former team, Dallas, tomorrow night.
He's fun. He's taking this kind of team on his shoulders and become like the star of the Knicks, and a big part of that winning streak, 27 points a game, is nothing to sneeze at. But, boy, when you do get that scare, doesn't it make you realize just how quickly things can change in the NBA? And I know if you're a Philly fan, you're shaking. You're like, oh, God, tell us about it. Embiid, you just can't get right without your best player. And even with Brunson out there, for a team like Memphis, who's struggling to come back and cut that deficit. Yeah, Brunson is important. You're going to need him down the stretch.
Yeah, there's 7 games in the league tonight. Doubleheader on ESPN has the Sixers hosting the Warriors. All of a sudden, that doesn't look like this grade A matchup, does it not? 7:30 followed by the Clippers and New Orleans. I love watching the ESPN scroll as they're pumping up the Clippers as being a final team. We shall see. Also tonight, Boston host Atlanta, so there's some NBA action if you so choose tonight. Golf begins in Phoenix tomorrow. Yes. Did you, PJ, by the way, picking our guy, Wyndham Clark.
Yes.
Wyndham Clark is a guy. Next week, we'll mark the season debut of Tiger Woods. He'll play at the Genesis Invitational. Of course, Woods hosts this tournament, formerly known as the LA Open, held at the Riviera Country Club in Los Angeles. Defending champ is John Rahm.
John Rahm,
who will not be in attendance given that he jumped a lift.
Oh, we can't see John Rahm at the Riviera? Well, then I'm not watching, and I'm not going to pay to have cable. I don't want cable. If I wanted cable, I would get it. I don't want it. I don't want to watch John Rahm on the Live Tour.
You like Phoenix, though?
Phoenix Open? Is that the PGA?
Some of us might have a little bit of more of a Rochester accent than others, but that hard A really comes through.
If you're new to the show, okay, for years I said that golfer's name, John Rahm, like John Ram. Did my partner Mike Danger correct me? No. Did you, the gentle listener, correct me? No.
Because it's normal. You're just a Rochesterian.
Yeah, I grew up in this town listening to Bob Matthews mispronounce how many names. Now I'm doing it myself.
John Ram.
John Ram.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to go up to Buffalo, and I'm going to go get some hot wings and blue cheese. And then after that, I'm going to take my kids to the Bills game.
This summer, I'm going to spend time up there in Canandaigua.
You know, I'm really excited because the Wings, they're going to have the plates again. Danger, we're like next month. It's opening day.
Opening day at Innovative Field? I go on Thursday when they have plates night.
Oh, yeah? Well, I don't have to wait that long. I'm going to go to the Amherst game coming up on
Oh,
Friday.
yeah? Well, I heard that Bill Gray's has $9.99 plates. I'm going to go to Bill Gray's.
9 times. Can't top that. Oh, this is why you come to the sports bar. Finally, Brandon Novak is a professional bowler. Probably never heard of him. He's competing in the 2024 U.S. Open Bowling Tournament at the Royal Pin Woodland in Indianapolis. He's in the middle of his 7th frame when U.S. Marshals come right out to arrest him.
Oh, no.
Yes, this is on YouTube. My favorite part of this, the commentator is Parker Bone III. I remember that name growing up. Novak is out of the picture frame, though, when the cuffs go on. Even after his arrest, he finished well enough to finish 36th and win $1,500 in prize money, even though, well, he's going to have to wait on collecting that. He's being extradited to Ohio as part of a secret indictment.
What is that? That's too compelling. What is this? Is this like a new Jason Bourne movie? Except Jason Bourne is a bowler? What's going on here?
Well, that's right. So when the U.S. Marshals
is he a
come
spy?
out,
Is he
the U.S. Marshals come out to arrest you.
Royal Pin Woodland. This is a bowling alley trying to sound like a prestigious country club.
Right, Royal Pin.
Royal Pin Woodland.
Royal Pin.
Yes, welcome to the Royal Pin Woodland. We invite you to try on some of our fine footwear, and if you have the time, our snack bar is exquisite here at the Royal Pin Woodland. Muffy will be taking your order. Please tend to the balls, Pookie.
What's the difference between Royal Pin Woodland and Dewey Gardens?
Oh, yeah.
Dewey Gardens.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to go to Fairport. What lanes do they have there? Fairport lanes.
I'm not kidding you, Danger. The name of the place on Merchants. If anybody remembers it. Lads. Lads was a great bowling alley.
I'm going to go to Lads. Dewey Gardens? What's the one there on Spencerport Road?
That's just Spencerport Bowl.
Spencerport Lanes or Spencerport Bowl? I'm calling it Spencerport Lanes because I'm from Rochester. And in the summer, I go to Canandaigua. But first, I'm going to go to Bill Gray's.
All right, all three of you that are left, we appreciate it. It's time for last call on the sports bar.
This is like, you can't do any worse than us.
No, this is-
866-483-26.
Why do you come to us? Because if we're not a representation of what Rochester is in this, I don't know. I don't know who is.
What are we doing?
It's not like Megan Perloff can pull this off.
No, are you getting this with any show on GR? No, they're not
They
talking
can't pull it
right.
off.
No,
they can't pull it off. Are you kidding me? Shope? You think Shope is going to acknowledge? And he was here. He knows what it's like. Do you think he's going to? Do you think he would ever try to relate to a Rochesterian where he is now?
Well, he would, like when the station was born, they would simulcast it. They didn't even try.
Nah, didn't even try.
Didn't even try.
We try. We try maybe a little too hard some days here on the Fan Rochester. 866-4326 is time for last call. We go to the phones. 585-866-4FAN as we close up shop next and let you know who's stopping by the sports bar tomorrow afternoon starting at 3 o'clock. Football fans, FanDuel has the perfect way for everyone to get in on the Super Bowl 58 action with a no-sweat same-game parlay. It's Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of 95.7 The Fan. When you bet on Super Bowl 58 on FanDuel, one game can mean a lot of wins. America's #1 sportsbook has all your favorite bets like the money line and spread, plus all sorts of prop bets. PJ was on with us earlier today. If you like a side, go ahead and build your parlay with that. Start with the side that you like and then build it with maybe the under passing yards prop for Brock Purdy or the over rushing yards prop for a guy like Deebo Samuel. When you combine all of your bets, you have a chance at a bigger payday, and you'll get bonus bets back on FanDuel if your same-game parlay doesn't win. So start building your own or just bet a popular same-game parlay already made for you in America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E, if you don't already have an account. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Minimum 3-leg parlay required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
And that's why I think it's so important that Joe Brady gets someone who he's familiar with. They come from the same kind of coaching tree system. We are going to see the Joe Brady offense, what he, like his stamp on what he wants to do. Now he gets another extension of what he wants to do with Ronald Curry, to have someone that he's familiar with, that has been there, that they have roots in the same system. To get those two in lockstep together is very important, kind of behind the scenes for Josh Allen.
That's Chris Capasso. Doing a great job, by the way. One of our favorites, co-hosting on One Bills Live with Steve Tasker this week. New Bills quarterbacks coach Ronald Curry. Your big news of the day here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. We welcome you back in. As we close up shop, it's time for Last Call. We go to the phones at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
John in Rochester. Hey, John.
Hey, I love John Ram. I really love that name, John Ram. But listen,
Ram.
Matakevich, does he have any value as a linebacker or a safety? The kid is a heavy hitter.
Not a kid anymore, John.
Oh, he's 31.
Yeah.
It's a kid to me.
Yeah. That's not saying much. No, look, does he have any value? Look, there was a time early in his tenure with the Bills where you did see him playing some linebacker in a pinch when you needed him to. And I think those days are gone. I think if you have somebody on the roster that could play that role now, moving forward, it's the free agent in Dodson. And Dodson's not going to be a starter, and I doubt he'd be a starter anywhere in this league. But could he be a big contributor on special teams and be that role that Matakevich has been? Yeah, I think he could be that. And you're talking about a guy that's 5 or 6 years younger than Matakevich is right at this very moment.
Hey, how about Joe Girard III? 21 points. And Clemson wins. I watched the game. I heard you guys talking about it. I watched it last night. It was a great game. And Girard, I'll tell you, that guy, 50 points a game as a high school player. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and John, thank you for the call. And Syracuse really can't shoot from the outside tonight. I think they're going to win tonight. It's Louisville, but that does hurt there. You had one of your own just kind of say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to use my fifth year somewhere else.
Gene on assignment tomorrow at Houghton for St. John Fisher basketball. He'll have the call tomorrow evening at 5:30, so starting at 3. Ryan Duffy joins me from the Let's Go Duffalo podcast, and we'll talk to Dante Whitner at 3:25 in the Sports Bar.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM 950.